What's going on, everybody? This is LTMB Live. Thank you for being here. Let the madness begin. I'm Will Gaylord.
And I'm Mike White.
What's going on, everybody? We got a good show for you tonight. We have lots to talk about. Glad to be here. We see some people already. We got a message saying channel not working right.
I guess that was during the, the notification period. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe they've been here since notification period and expected us to be on. So.
Yeah. All right. Sound and vid fine. All right. So that's cool. All right. But yeah. All right. So this is Tuesday, right? Tuesday, September 25th. This year is chucking along, man. Of course, we have a lot to talk about concerning the Supreme Court nominee, Judge Brett Kavanaugh. We have some other things to talk about as well with, of course, Cosby. Some big news today regarding Bill Cosby.
Got some Geiger news.
Yeah, Amber Geiger.
Geiger update. Amber alert. What's up, Lisa? She said, yo. So I said, yo back. What up?
We have some family political strife to talk about. Some family beef.
We call it a sibling rivalry?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh.
One side is dominating, though.
Oh, true that.
Yeah.
Oh, true that.
But yeah, so we can begin definitely with Kavanaugh. Brett Kavanaugh. The storylines behind this saga are continuing. It's been doing that ever since. It's been about a week of this now, just over. So. Lately, we've been talking about just one allegation as it pertains to Judge Brett Kavanaugh, and that was Christine Blasey Ford. And she came to an agreement with the Senate Judiciary Committee in which she was going to testify this week. I believe she requested an additional day because we talked about on the last show last week that I believe it was Charles E. Grassley, who gave her until Friday morning to decide whether she was going to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. And she requested another day, and then it was determined that she was going to testify, but not on Monday. So that would have been yesterday. So it has been set for Thursday for her to testify, and that's the day that Brett Kavanaugh will be testifying as well. So that's set to go in a couple days. I just did read that the Senate Judiciary Committee, the Republicans on the committee, in which there are 11, they have hired outside counsel, a woman, to question Christine Blasey Ford, in which that was something that Dr. Ford did not want, but they're going to do that anyways. They said they're doing that to make it not a spectacle. They want it to be professional.
No, they're doing it to make it a spectacle because to them, they think the mere act of hiring a woman or employing a woman to question Ford makes them seem more, I guess, empathetic. You know what I'm saying? You see, we got a woman.
We got a woman
specifically, to question her. See, you see, if we were really just interested in making Miss Ford feel uncomfortable, we wouldn't have gotten a woman, would we have?
Yeah, they wouldn't have, right?
It doesn't matter what they do at this point.
No,
to me, because they've already shown so many whack ass hands.
Yeah, that's true. So again, that was the one account that we knew about. Over the weekend, though, that other shoe dropped. So there is now another account of sexual misconduct as it relates to Brett Kavanaugh. So the second woman who has now come forward is Deborah Ramirez, and she attended Yale University with Brett Kavanaugh at the same time period. She was a freshman when he was a freshman. And she told The New Yorker that, quote, Kavanaugh had exposed himself at a drunken dormitory party, thrust his penis in her face, and caused her to touch it without her consent as she pushed him away. This supposedly occurred during the 1983 to 1984 academic school year, in which they were both freshmen at Yale. Of course, Kavanaugh is denying this allegation as well. And in a statement, he wrote, this alleged event from 35 years ago did not happen. The people who knew me then know this did not happen and have said so. This is a smear, plain and simple. I look forward to testifying on Thursday about the truth and defending my good name and the reputation for my character and integrity I have spent a lifetime building against these last-minute allegations. So I guess the heart of this story is Ramirez said that there was a small group of students on campus playing a drinking game. She said that she was quickly inebriated. She remembers being on the floor and, quote, I remember a penis being in front of my face. I knew that's not what I wanted, even in that state of mind. So Ramirez said that she pushed the person away, touching the penis in the process. She says she also remembers Kavanaugh standing to her right, pulling up his pants and laughing while he was doing so. So in her account, in reading her account, we already said that Dr. Ford's account seems very credible. Mm-hmm. But I think this account is even more credible because of the witnesses that were there and have already spoken to the New Yorker about what they saw as well.
What they saw, and just like the whole idea I guess, Kavanaugh being presented as some sort of like neat and tidy choir boy. He's never done anything wrong. To me, strikes me as very suspicious. Like that's how they presented him, and I kind of wondered why they would do that. I mean, is that really even necessary?
Right.
I mean, most politicians or people who run for office, or people in general, usually have a young and dumb past. Many presidents or many congressmen have detailed their past when they were teenagers, before college and after college, and talked about the things that they've done. And a lot of that stuff has not been, I guess, very kosher. So they kind of come clean with that, and they say, okay, I was young and dumb, and now I'm just grown up now, and I don't do none of that stuff. So like I guess engaging in like hookup culture, or engaging in like getting blackout drunk, it's whatever. Now, I didn't get down like that, but if you did that when you were young and then got over it and moved on, I don't see what's the big issue. So what's the point of Kavanaugh being presented in a way that makes it seem like he just was like
squeaky clean?
Squeaky clean. And to me, it's like there's a reason why that such an effort is taking place. Why? Like, what are you covering up for? Even though it's not necessary to cover up for being young and dumb.
Right. Well, I guess that this would go beyond young and dumb, because this would, I guess, tell a story about who he is, really. Because if there's one account of his senior year in high school and forcibly trying to take somebody's clothes off and then trying to muzzle her when she's screaming, and then after that, just the year after that, or then maybe even later that year at Yale University, he's unzipping his pants and, presenting his penis in somebody's face and laughing about it. And this is all while drinking. It seems to me that tells a story about who this guy is.
All right. Now, what else would tell a story about who this guy is? Possibly maybe friends of his?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Usually, I guess, when friends, detail their experience back when they were young in high school or in college and talk about certain things that's happened, you would think that the friends of those people, close friends, engaged in the same thing.
You would think so.
And kind of the main player within this story, Kavanaugh's friend, what's his face, Mark Judge.
Yeah.
Where is he now? Where is he now?
He's trying to be in hiding. But reporters kind of caught up with him.
And he is pretty much Kavanaugh's number one character witness.
Right.
And to me, character witness is not just about dealing with one particular event, right? Because we can talk about Mark Judge being a character witness in regard to this Ford situation in general. But see, Mark Judge, he's a character witness in regard to his school time experience with Kavanaugh, period. And if he presents, a narrative that runs contradictory to this very squeaky clean, neat and clean, respected all women at all points, never got blackout drunk narrative that Kavanaugh and his congressional supporters have kind of presented, then that does kind of make me question whether any of this is true in regards to the sexual assault as well.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because if the people closest to him, his close friend, kind of detail a different experience, which Mark Judge has, then why the need to kind of deny your experiences as a teenager and as a college student?
So, okay, so you're alleging that his friends, close friends, like a Mark Judge, has detailed a certain type of past. Expound on that.
Yes, because his friend Mark Judge penned a memoir, which was called Wasted, Tales of a Gen X Drunk, which pretty much kind of detailed the experiences of, I call it party keg culture,
Right.
And hookup culture during his times, not only at that preparatory school in high school years, but his time at Yale as well. And so now in this memoir, he didn't use people's real names. He did his due diligence and just kind of used sub names.
But you would have to think that he's probably talking about Kavanaugh at some point. You would have to think that.
Yes. And in this little memoir, it had detailed accounts of binge drinking, alcoholism, and I guess the culture surrounding females that they hooked up with. Again, this is just young and dumb stuff, which is fine. It's fine, but like, why does Kavanaugh not deny that any of this stuff has gone on?
Because he even denies the whole that he drank so much to where he was really affected by the alcohol.
Well, like, is there any kind of like counter narrative that kind of offers a different take on whether Kavanaugh was involved in any situations where he did get blackout drunk?
Yes, but let's hold off on that, and we're gonna get to that because there's a lot to talk about here, and there's a lot to talk about concerning this latest allegation and somebody that maybe doesn't have firsthand knowledge of it, but has firsthand knowledge of his behavior while he was a freshman at Yale University. But before that, we know that even in the case of Christine Blasey Ford, Republicans have came out and they are strongly backing Brett Kavanaugh. They're supporting him. They've made a lot of statements about this, and frankly, it's detestable to me. It's disgusting. But nevertheless, they've been saying these things. And after this latest allegation concerning Deborah Ramirez came out, President Trump had this to say: "For people to come out of the woodworks from 36 years ago and 30 years ago and never mention it, all of a sudden it happens. In my opinion, it's totally political." And so for me, I'll admit it is political. It definitely is political. You know what? There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't mean that the allegations aren't true either. It's only considered political because we are discussing politics. Like you were talking about on the last program, when you turn in an application for employment, typically there's a background check, right? Now, if the results of that background check produce something that deem you not qualified for the position, you're not going to say it's political, right? You're just going to say it's because you're not qualified for the position because of based on what we found. This is going to leave a bad stain on this profession or this institution or whatever. We don't want you here. Sorry, bye-bye.
Yeah. Like
you wouldn't say it's political, though.
No, especially you wouldn't. If they're bringing up anything that they thought or they noticed may have been troubling that they found during that background check and referencing process, then they'll ask you about it. It will be ridiculous for me to respond in that case, in a situation like that, like, hey, like,
why are you bringing this up now?
Why are you bringing this up now?
Exactly.
Why are you bringing this up now? Right when I turn in the application, as if me turning the application didn't prompt them to look my shit up.
And that's exactly what Brett Kavanaugh is doing here. He's turning in his application to become the next Supreme Court justice.
So yes, of course it's going to come up.
Exactly. So yeah, you can say it's political because it's concerning politics, but that doesn't mean that it's not true. So of course there's other statements. This is from the White House spokesperson, Carrie Kupek, and she said this 35-year-old uncorroborated claim is the latest in a coordinated smear campaign by the Democrats designed to tear down a good man. This is from Senator Tom Cotton, Republican from Arkansas. The Democrats are engaged in a campaign of delay and character assassination against Judge Kavanaugh. Lindsey Graham, Republican from South Carolina, right here. He said that the Democrats are playing, quote, a game of delay, deception, and wholesale character assassination. Senator Orrin Hatch, he said, no innuendo has been too low, no insinuation too dirty. Everything is an excuse for delay, no matter how unsubstantiated. Also, Senator Hatch had this to say later on. He said, Senate Democrats are demeaning both the Senate and the Supreme Court through their partisan games and transparent attempts at character assassination. We should hear from Dr. Ford on Thursday as planned, then we should vote.
Innuendo? Last time I checked, these were detailed accounts. They're making it sound like it's just like accusations without any detail, without any background, right. Such as, let's say, a letter being turned in to congressional members, or let's just say a record from a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
A kind of a detailed, I guess, a narrative about someone's experience at a certain school, with there being corroborating evidence that these particular activities did go on. That's more than just innuendo.
I know. These are not just suggestions. These are people that are actually putting their names on these allegations. And again, Orrin Hatch, Senator Orrin Hatch, this is the same guy that back in 1991, he was on the Senate Judiciary Committee during the time of the Anita Hill hearings. And he said back then that the FBI investigation was, quote, the very right thing to do. But here he's talking about how this is just some Democratic ploy. Another representative, this is Representative Kevin Cramer, who is a North Dakota Republican who is trying to challenge Democratic Senator Heidi Heitkamp for her seat in the Senate. He said, even if it's all true, does it disqualify him? It certainly means that he did something really bad 36 years ago, but does it disqualify him from the Supreme Court? Yeah, it actually does disqualify him for a couple different reasons. First of all, when you're talking about a matter of sexual abuse, when you're talking about sexual assault, sexual misconduct, that stain is way too dirty for you to come back from when you're talking about a position of this magnitude. That's one. Two, this dude has not even made good on any type of,
Yeah, we both talked about that.
He hasn't come clean. He hasn't apologized for it or anything like that. So how can you forgive him for it when he hasn't sought an apology?
An apology. Man, I can't remember. Man, I saw this clip. I wish I could remember who it was, but you may remember. There was a Republican representative who said, like, him actually becoming a judge, like, proves that he moved past this. That's if he did these things when he was 17, or when he was older, when he was in college. Since he actually became a federal judge, that proves that he's been redeemed itself.
Wow.
That proves he's been redeemed itself.
That's crazy.
Oh, no. That is crazy. So, I mean, that takes it to a new level. Like, when we're just talking about being young and dumb and partying and drinking, getting blackout drunk, like, that, I wasn't about that life. But, hey, if you did that, that's you, and you got over it. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, on to the next level, and let's just say, he did engage in this sexual assault and, tried to take off Ford's bathing suit and cover her mouth. Let's just say that did happen. Now, even though it was way back then, I would say, he gets a pardon from me if, like you say, he came clean. If he actually has reflected on it, like, man, that was dumb. My view about women is, definitely not a misogynistic one that sees women as objects and pieces of ownership, or objects to own, whatever. Entitled to a woman's body, all that good stuff. It would be different if he kind of reflected on that and moved on into his adult life, but that's not what happened. If it was a scenario like that, I don't think we can hold it against him. But that's not the case here.
That's not the case. That's not what we're dealing with. The chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Charles E. Grassley, he said, quote, "Yet again, Senate Democrats actively withheld information from the rest of the committee only to drop information at politically opportune moments." Now, this is really interesting. Very ironic for him to state this, because you remember at the beginning of these hearings, you remember when there were like thousands of documents that Republicans were withholding, the president was withholding from being released so that the whole entire Senate Judiciary Committee could actually analyze Brett Kavanaugh as a candidate for the Supreme Court? Remember when they didn't have all those documents and they were making a scene, they were protesting, they were saying, hey, we need to delay these proceedings because we don't have all the relevant information. How can we ask Brett Kavanaugh information when we don't have everything that has to do with his whole entire record? You remember that? But now Grassley's saying that the Democrats are actively withholding information. Really?
Also, the whole, I guess, concept or the act of trotting out all those women 24 hours after the news broke. They had to be holding on to something.
Yes.
If, I guess, these women were presented in such a short time period after the initial story broke, right?
Had to. Man.
They had to.
They had to have some type of prior knowledge of what happened.
So they were holding something back, is what they were saying.
Of course.
So see, I think people are centering the conversation on the allegations too much, but like to me, it's not just about the allegations. It's about the spurious rationale being used as excuses and to defend or offer as proof to why he can't be a sexual predator. I think that's like one of the most important parts to kind of focus on is what are the reasons, what are the responses, what are the reasons they're using, and kind of that to me tells a tale too, because it's I don't even know where to start. I mean, you can start at all boys at that age have tried to rape women. Okay, well, you know what? Since you went there, we have a video from CNN, and CNN got together a group of, I believe there were four Republican women, and they were asked questions about Brett Kavanaugh, and this is how they responded.
A show of hands, how many of you believe Judge Kavanaugh when he says this didn't happen?
I believe him.
Believe him too.
I do believe him. I believe him.
How can we believe the word of a woman of something that happened 36 years ago when this guy has an impeccable reputation? There was nobody that has spoken ill will about him. Everyone that speaks about him, this guy's an altar boy, a scout. He's, because one woman made an allegation.
But in the grand scheme of things, my goodness, there was no intercourse. There was maybe a touch.
Right.
Can we really? 36 years later, she's still stuck on that? Had it happened?
I mean, we're talking about a 15-year-old girl, which I respect. I'm a woman, I respect. And we're talking about a 17-year-old boy in high school with testosterone running high. Tell me what boy hasn't done this in high school. Please, I would like to know.
And I would hate to think that 30, 40 years later, somebody's going to destroy your life because somewhere at some party, it's not right, but maybe you touch somebody the way you were not supposed to.
And who brought the alcohol for these kids?
If it is true, would it be okay with you if he became a justice on the Supreme Court?
As long as that's an isolated incident, yes.
He was 17. He was not even an adult. And we all made mistakes at 17. I believe in a second chance.
I'd be more than okay with him being Supreme Court judge.
And in like their in the caption or whatever, what were these women presented as? Republican what?
Republican voters.
It actually turns out that each and every single one of those women that were on that CNN segment weren't just Republican voters. They were actually Republican operatives who worked directly with the Republican Party as strategists.
Right. One of them even ran for office.
Yeah, office. So these weren't just
from the Miami-Dade area, I believe.
Yeah. So they're not just voters. See, I can't just look at those Republican women with a side eye. I got to look at CNN with a side eye as well. Because you mean to tell me they didn't know that? How can me and Will know that about these women and who they are, but CNN is putting them on as Republican voters to offer some sort of some sort of grassroots perspective about Kavanaugh's character.
I will say this about CNN though. I don't know how easy it is to find people that are willing to go on the record about Judge Kavanaugh in such a way. Because if it's just regular voters, I don't know if they're going to want to tie their name to it like that. You would, like, it's not surprising to me that somebody or people that work closely with the Republican Party are trying to do very favorable things for the Republican Party. So this doesn't shock me that this is their narrative coming from them, but it's still completely repulsive to hear these women actually talk in this manner.
And it's obviously fake, because then they're presenting themselves as just regular voters, while the viewer doesn't know they're actually Republican strategists, Republican candidates, and or Republican operatives, people who work with the Republican Party. So it's like, for them to actually do that, to me, that's another knock on Kavanaugh. Because, like, why do they feel the need to do that? Why would you do that? Why would you misrepresent yourself like that? You see what I'm saying? That's one of those responses to the allegations I'm talking about. Right. I mean, and they're just all over the place. Not just the trotting the 65 women out that you didn't rape, which doesn't do anything to contradict the allegations. Not even Mark Judge's saying, I don't recall the situation, and then saying I was too drunk to remember. You see what I'm saying? Like, all these things contradict one another. And in the latest interview, or the only interview that he has done with Fox, Kavanaugh, he used a virgin defense.
Right.
He said, I was a virgin then and a short time after. Again, that doesn't directly disprove any of the allegations. So again, it's about the response. And your boy Franklin Graham said that since Kavanaugh stopped in the middle of an assault that never happened, by the way, that he was respecting Ford.
Yeah, so we have that video as well. Franklin Graham, who is the son of Billy Graham, he was on CBN being asked questions about Brett Kavanaugh, and this is what he had to say.
What kind of message do you think it sends to sexual abuse victims when they're told that it's not relevant, something that happened years ago?
Well, there wasn't a crime that was committed. These are two teenagers, and it's obviously she said no, and he respected it and walked away. If that's the case, but he says that he didn't do it. He just flat out says that's just not true. So regardless if it was true, these are two teenagers, and he said or she said no, and he respected that. So I don't know what the issue is. This is just an attempt to smear his name, that's all. How far back do we go, Heather, in a person's life? There's a lot of things that I've done when I was a teenager that I certainly am ashamed of and not proud of. And if we're going to hold people accountable for things that they did 40 years ago and say whether it's relevant or not relevant, this is a tactic by the left to try to keep conservatives off the bench.
So it's very interesting the way he tried to explain Christine Blasey Ford's account. And he said that Dr. Ford told him to get off and he respected it. Like it was a consensual type of thing. And Dr. Ford was not comfortable with it. She asked him not to, and he was like, okay, cool. Was that exactly what Dr. Ford said? No. Dr. Ford said that she was pinned against the bed. She couldn't get up. He was trying to take her clothes off. She was trying to scream. He covered her mouth.
They turned the music up.
So that nobody would hear as well. And she was only able to escape because the friend, Mark Judge, jumped on top of him. They fell to the floor. That's how she was able to escape, lock herself in the bathroom. It has nothing to do with Judge Kavanaugh respecting any part of this situation at all.
I was thinking, like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. How could he say that, Kavanaugh took it to a certain point and then showed respect because she said stop? The only way that would actually make some sort of, sense would be if that's the way he viewed the situation, like it was consensual. You see what I'm saying? That's the only way that even makes sense. Right. Because, like, if he is saying that, well, even if he did force himself upon her, like Ford outlines, outlined in her statement, that's like saying, like, I could kidnap somebody, throw them in the trunk, and have intentions of torturing and killing them, but in the middle of it, I changed my mind and just let them go. I didn't do anything. I didn't go through with it, right?
Actually, it's worse than what you just said. Actually, they escaped.
Oh, damn, that's right. Shit, that's right.
You didn't make the decision to let them go. They just
Well, he's claiming he made the decision. Because obviously somebody who's being kidnapped isn't a constant, like, I guess, trying to constantly withdraw from that situation.
Exactly.
So the denial is always there. But yeah, it would only make sense if that was the case. But I think I'm going with you and saying that he is kind of, I guess, shaping that situation or supposed situation around like some form of consent.
Right. And then the last thing he said was that this was something that is a tactic of the left to keep conservatives off the bench. Now, in this era, like in this environment that we live in currently, 2017, 2018, there have been many men that have been outed and ousted from positions that they hold because of their terrible past, because that they've been engaged in sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, sexual abuse, what have you. And now they're being outed. Women are being, they're feeling encouraged to come forward with their stories, and they're getting off their chest. They're outing these powerful men, and that's exactly what should be happening. Now, to frame this as he did, as Franklin Graham did, as a tactic that is used by the left to keep conservatives off the bench. There have been, let me see, there was Senator Al Franken. There was Representative John Conyers. There was Representative Elizabeth Etsy. And there was also Representative Ruben Kuen. All four of them have been, all four of them have been engaged in some bad behavior. With the case of Al Franken, it was the inappropriate touching. It was other allegations that actually did him in. With John Conyers, there was this whole payoff situation, which he admitted to paying the woman off, but he actually denied the allegations. Both of them resigned. Representative Elizabeth Etsy, it was her chief of staff that was engaged in harassing, I believe, a female staffer and threatening to kill her, and she knew about this but did nothing. And then also with Ruben Kuen, there were two former colleagues that he was trying to, he made unwanted sexual advances towards them. Now, all four of them, the Democratic Party, Democratic leaders, have urged them to resign, have urged them to get up out of politics. You're no longer wanted here. All of them, right? Also, we have people like Matt Lauer. We have people like Harvey Weinstein. And I think both of them can be considered Democratic, within like the Democratic Party, or at least, leaning towards the Democratic Party.
Yeah, they lean towards the Democratic Party based on, I guess, their who they donated money to.
Right. And the Democratic Party, by and large, has had critical things to say about each one of these vile people, right? So if this is a tactic to keep conservatives off the bench, where is the logic in that? See, I keep saying that sexual assault, sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, this is not a partisan issue. It should not be a partisan issue because we see it on both sides of the aisle. It's not about politics whatsoever. It's about male toxicity. It's about bad behavior.
Male abuse of power. Men abusing their power.
Exactly.
There's no way any rational person could just say that this is a partisan issue. Now, there may be like ways in which certain elements and certain ways in which how men behave slightly differently because of ideological differences maybe, but that's just a matter of how it's presented. But for the most part, I just don't see it being one side or the other side.
It's not. So it's I mean, the claim is BS for him to use that this is a tactic by the left. Really, as it concerns both of these women now that have allegations against Brett Kavanaugh, I haven't seen any one of these Democratic representatives or these senators, I haven't seen not one of them say, yes, Brett Kavanaugh is guilty. No one of them has said that. They are requesting an investigation to take place so that they can determine if these allegations hold weight or not. That is what they have said. But the Republican strategy is, no, it happened so long ago. Nah, we don't believe it. She didn't say anything about it before. Oh, yes, 35 years later. Oh, no, it can't be true. So there's a hashtag now that's pretty popular now. It's a hashtag why I didn't report. And there's a lot of women that are on social media sharing their stories of why they did not report their instances of sexual abuse, sexual harassment, whatever. And I mean, the reasons are far and wide, but a lot of them are they didn't feel like they would be supported coming forward. They felt like when maybe the first person that they may have told, which may have been a family member, they kind of swept it under the rug. They didn't feel like they had the back end to deal with it. Maybe they're off at college alone. They didn't feel like they had the support necessary.
Maybe there was a sense of shame.
Yes, because a lot of these women feel like it's their fault, and shameful that I lead this guy on or something like that.
And then consider maybe some of the individuals, I guess, that these situations surround. It could be an individual with some sort of influence, individual with privilege and power that they definitely don't feel confident in going against. So a lot of these situations involve men in power or boys who are in a privileged situation or connected to privilege or connected to power, and their voices would go unheard. And if you're talking about like a situation with Kavanaugh, the school he went to, that was a Catholic school, right? So there's probably even more pressure to not say anything.
Just because it's been many, many years since these assaults took place does not mean that they are any less credible. So you already alleged to it that Brett Kavanaugh has spoken in his own words in his first interview since all of this occurred, or all of this has been revealed. So he did appear in an interview with Fox News that aired last night on Monday night. And like you said, he made a statement like, I did not have sexual intercourse or anything close to sexual intercourse in high school or for many years thereafter. He also made a statement saying, I'm not going to let false accusations drive us out of this process, and we're looking for a fair process where I can be heard and defend my integrity, my lifelong record of promoting dignity and equality for women, starting with the women who knew me when I was 14 years old. So he is not, according to him, he's not going to withdraw his name from consideration. And at this point, I don't expect him to, because when you have the Republican Party backing you up every step along the way, there's not been one member of the Republican Party that have came forward and said like, this is troubling. I don't even think they've gone that far to say like, man, there was one allegation and now there's two from around the same period. This is very troubling. We have to get to the bottom of this. No.
Because it's their guy, and they understand that this is an important Supreme Court nomination. And this kind of this will definitely tip the scales in their favor, so they could, assert their agenda through the courts. They understand that there's going to be a lot of litigation that's going to reach the Supreme Court that's most likely going to fall in their favor if Kavanaugh gets that seat.
Right. And so this is Tuesday now, right? We're at Tuesday. And again, on Thursday, Christine Blasey Ford is due to testify along with Brett Kavanaugh on Thursday before the Senate Judiciary Committee. And just a few minutes before we came on to this program, we saw a notification saying that the Senate Judiciary Committee will vote on Brett Kavanaugh on Friday, the day after both of them testify. Now, there is a second allegation. There is Deborah Ramirez, who has made what seems like a credible allegation of sexual assault by Brett Kavanaugh. Now, at this point, there's been no word that she is going to testify. There's been some conversation, and I believe she wants an FBI investigation as well, just like Dr. Ford wanted. They want due process. They want to go through the motions. They want to go through the process so that their claims can be heard, and so the Senate Judiciary Committee can get to the bottom of this. But again, we're talking about the Republicans. Like you said, they want to confirm their guy quick, fast, and hurry. And it seems like they don't have any time for that
Oh,
whatsoever.
they don't even care. They don't care about any testimony. They don't care about an FBI investigation. They don't care about getting down to the bottom of the truth of the matter surrounding the character of this guy. It doesn't matter that something happened 30 years ago. If I raped or killed or kidnapped or, molested, whatever, somebody 30 years ago, I guarantee you, not just a job, but just my personal interactions with people. If I start to engage with people and they find that out, that might have been a possibility even 30 years ago,
Right.
they might be looking at me like, man, like, what kind of dude is this? Where is he coming from? What type of upbringing,
Right.
like, did he have? Like, does he still retain any of those traits at all, even if it was like 30 years ago? Right. You see what I'm saying? Like, especially if it was 30 years ago and I'm in my upper teens and or if I'm in college, like, come on, there are certain character traits that present themselves at that age that are very hard to kick, are very hard to get rid of. You see what I'm saying? So them saying it was 30 years ago to me is irrelevant as it pertains to certain character traits that would cause somebody to, I guess, engage in predatory and rapey behavior.
What they're doing right now, if they go ahead and actually confirm Brett Kavanaugh, they will, in essence, leave a permanent stain upon their party and the Supreme Court bench as well. They seem to not be moved by this. They seem not to be affected by this. In every other line of work, this would be a significant type of accusation. This would be something that, again, leaves a disgusting stain on the profession, on the institution. There have been many different claims. Like I said, I ran across a few names. They were just Democratic Party people that have either resigned their position or have stated that they're not going to run for re-election because of the accusations being made against them. They may still deny it, but they realize that, this is way too much. It looks way too bad. I can't be a part of this. This is a stain on the Democratic Party and politics in general. I can't represent people with this hanging over my head. There's even I believe it's a Republican representative in which his daughter made some claims about sexual abuse throughout her life. And he has stated that no, he's not going to run for re-election as well. Now, we don't know if it's true or not. I mean, it looks really bad. He is like very forcefully denying the allegations, but he said that he realizes that he said he's not going to put his family through it, his daughter through it. He's not going to wage a war with his daughter through the media.
Because that's what's going to happen.
Exactly. So he's not stepping down, but he's not running for re-election anymore. When things like this happen, it is way too... It's way too dark of a stain. It's way too significant for you to just brush aside. But for some reason, the Republicans feel like, this is nothing. We can get by this. I don't see how they're gonna do it, but this is the Republican Party in 2018.
I guarantee you, if they were looking at somebody to, let's say, help them or assist them in taking care of their children. Like some sort of nanny service,
yes,
or a babysitter, and let's say they were, I don't know, in their 50s or whatever, and they looked in their background and they saw something troubling, like what we see with Kavanaugh. Would any of these Republicans be like, it doesn't matter? I mean, he was, or she, or he was only 17, 18, 19, or 20, when this allegedly happened. That doesn't matter to me.
What if they voted for Trump? Would they? If they voted for Trump, would they be like, okay? No. That still wouldn't be enough.
That still wouldn't be enough.
No, it wouldn't be enough.
True that. If they voted for Trump, but they had that in their background, whether it be assault, sexual assault allegations, or molestation allegations, some kind of allegations, kidnapping, any kind of strangulation, whatever, anything.
They'd sever those ties quickly.
They definitely sever those ties. They definitely wouldn't hire somebody that had that in their background if that person, or they were looking to that person to take care of their children.
Right. So, again, in this interview with Fox News, Brett Kavanaugh, he also stated, and I alleged this a little bit, or I kind of mentioned this, but he said that, when he did drink in high school, he never consumed so much alcohol that he couldn't remember the events of the previous night. He said, quote, "That never happened." So, that's where we get to somebody that might be able to provide a counter narrative to what Kavanaugh is asserting. So enter his college roommate, James Roche. So in a statement, James Roche said that he was Kavanaugh's roommate at Yale University in the fall of 1983, and the two did not really, I guess, hang out much. He said, beside like maybe the first few days of school, they didn't hang out. They really didn't get together that much. But he did see Brett Kavanaugh come home multiple nights drunk. And then in his statement, he said, it is from this experience that I concluded that although Brett was normally reserved, he was a notably heavy drinker, even by the standards of the time, and that he became aggressive and belligerent when he was very drunk. I did not observe the specific incident in question, but I do remember Brett frequently drinking excessively and becoming incoherently drunk. So the incident in question he's talking about is the claim by Deborah Ramirez. He said he has no firsthand knowledge of that. He didn't witness it, but he did see Brett Kavanaugh coming into the room, stumbling drunk, incoherent. He also said that he became friends with Deborah Ramirez at the university. He said that she stood out as being exceptionally honest with a trusting manner. He also said, quote, based on my time with Debbie, I believe her to be unusually honest and straightforward, and I cannot imagine her making this up. Based on my time with Brett, I believe that he and his social circle were capable of the actions that Debbie described. So again, there were witnesses there for this allegation, okay? And again, some of them spoke to the New Yorker. Now, I believe there were two that spoke to the New Yorker, but they were not named because I believe either Debbie Ramirez or them, they didn't want to be named. But they did speak to him, I believe. Also, there were other people that heard about it shortly after. Shortly after that incident occurred, they heard about it. Deborah Ramirez also said that I believe it was Brett Kavanaugh or somebody. No. Somebody else was walking away when this happened and said, yo, Brett Kavanaugh just put his penis in front of Debbie's face or something like that. So it seems like if there was an actual investigation that was conducted into this allegation, seems like there's some evidence here. Seems like there's some testimony that can back up this allegation.
So is there anything that Kavanaugh has said or that's been directly tied to him that gives indication that kind of he was involved in that lifestyle?
Not from him.
Wasn't there some stuff in his yearbook?
Okay, yeah. So we can go to the yearbook now. So, oh boy, there's so much with this guy, right? So, again, you remember that list of 65 women that came out just a few hours after this whole story came out, before Christine Blasey Ford was named. There was a list of 65 women that came out, and they were all supportive of Brett Kavanaugh. They were all from back in the day during his time in high school, and they spoke to the great character, upstanding character of one Brett Kavanaugh. Well, one of them, her name is Renee Schroeder Dolphin. She's now disgusted by something that Brett Kavanaugh and some of his friends did that she had no knowledge of, but now she's aware of. So in Brett Kavanaugh's high school yearbook at Georgetown Prep, the New York Times reported that Dolphin's name was found several times, including in a caption of a photo of 9 football players, including Kavanaugh. The caption read, Renate Alumni. Now, again, her name is Renate Schroeder. Now, I believe her married name is Dolphin. But her first name is Renate, and the caption reads, Renate Alumni.
I wonder. You know how, boys are in their lingo and trying to use, ambiguous terms that relate to something. I know, I know I did that with certain things.
Right.
I didn't do it, in the same in what was done here.
No.
But to me that suggests maybe she was on some kind of list or I guess they gave her some sort of status.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. Because when you say when you say something like Renate alumni. When you're throwing in a female's name before the word alumni, you're suggesting some type of sexual conquest. And I believe there were two of Kavanaugh's classmates. They confirmed to the New York Times that the mentions of her name was about sexual boasting. So this was something that was not just concerning Brett Kavanaugh. There was several boys at this school that made these boastful type of comments about this particular woman in general, and girl at the time.
And I think one thing people should understand is they were making these claims, and we don't even know if they were true or not. Right. They could be true, because that's what happens in a lot of, I guess, schools where, like, I guess your conquest means so much. It's valued so heavily. So it's like your sense of, like, becoming a man and being seen as, like, popular rests upon how many females you sleep with, right? How many women you sleep with. So, like, in a lot of cases, it may not even be true. Maybe it is, but in a lot of these cases, they're throwing these names out like, yeah, I did her, and they didn't, because they know it garners some sort of, like, cachet amongst that fraternity of boys.
And like I said, there were several mentions of her name inside this yearbook, and there was another mention right on Brett Kavanaugh's personal page in which he lists, the organizations that he was in, member of the football team, stuff like that, different stuff that you can't understand, like code language. But there was one mention that said, again, Renate alumni right next to his picture in the yearbook. So
there was one other kind of something else that was mentioned that kind of did stand out to me too, because he said he was the treasurer of the 100 Keg Club, which is some sort of promise made by him and all of his boys that they would consume 100 kegs before graduation. Now, like we just need to be completely honest about situations like that. Like, I guess setting up some sort of, like, a goal in regards to how much you drink. That's not something you do if the goal of drinking is not to get blackout drunk.
Wasted.
That's the goal of that, is to get wasted. Exactly. And most likely when you're doing that, you are not remembering the night before. But according to Kavanaugh, that's not what he did. When he drank, he didn't drink. He wanted to cherish the moment. Now, that's not what he said, but he made it sound like, there was no situation where they drank to get, they drank to just to get blackout drunk and to forget things. No, they didn't drink for that reason. Obviously, you don't drink for that reason. That's just a result of drinking. And to kind of put that, like, on your own, like, as a description of who you are, treasurer of the 100 Keg Club, that kind of does say what you're about.
No. Young people, okay? Not just boys. But young people, men or boys or girls, doesn't matter. If they're engaged in drinking at a young age, you think they're doing it for the taste? You think they're just doing it socially? They're having like one beer or something like that, one cup of wine, one glass of wine. No, they're doing it to get drunk as can be because they're stupid. That's what young people do. If they're engaged in that type of behavior, they are going to get pass out drunk.
And that was from their senior year. So if you think about, like, I guess your access to things in high school, and certain things that you're restricted from, and if you're looking at the situation that they grew up in a very strict environment, they had access to all these things. They had access to do all those things in high school. Do we really think that type of behavior just stopped after they graduated high school? Like, usually the opportunities for partying, like, go up. Partying, drinking, once you get to campus. So all that stuff was just in his senior year of high school.
You're talking about way more freedom when you actually get to live on a college campus.
He went to college to straighten up. Again, we'll say that that's not necessarily, like, bad. That doesn't disqualify him for anything later on in life. Like I said, just being young and dumb. Right. But why just disconnect yourself from everything?
Right.
Why do you have to do that?
Because you're trying to project an image that was you, but you don't want it to be you, because then that might lead a little bit of truth, or that might lead people to believe these allegations because, of course, they were done while you were drunk, right? So anyway, Dolphin, she said in a statement to the New York Times, I learned about these yearbook pages only a few days ago. I don't know what Renee alumnus actually means. I can't begin to comprehend what goes through the minds of 17-year-old boys who write such things, but the insinuation is horrible, hurtful, and simply untrue. I pray their daughters are never treated this way. I will have no further comment. Now, one of the attorneys for Brett Kavanaugh, her name is Alexandra Walsh. She told the New York Times, Judge Kavanaugh and Miss Dolphin attended one high school event together and shared a brief kiss goodnight following that event. They had no other such encounter. The language from Judge Kavanaugh's high school yearbook refers to the fact that he and Miss Dolphin attended that one high school event together and nothing else. You are full of shit. Anybody that has attended high school before, anybody, you know what, throw out high school. Anybody that has been a teenager before, and if you read the caption, this woman's name and alumni, if you read that caption, you know exactly what that meant. That meant that was somehow salacious, right? That meant that was sexual in some type of nature. It didn't regard just a little kiss coming after a date. That's not what it meant whatsoever. It was way more than that. That's what the message that Brett Kavanaugh and his buddies was trying to sell to all of their friends.
So see, I think that you might want to clarify that for some people who may have just joined this show, because a lot of people seem to think it's just about the allegations, correct?
Right.
When it is not just about the allegations, because I don't think anyone could know. I don't think anyone could know. What we have to look at is the narrative that is created kind of as a result of the allegations even coming to light. And like you mentioned, this entire narrative shaped around Kavanaugh has been one thing. Again, that's aside from the allegations, but what you would call proof, or I guess what you call points in which this narrative kind of falls flat, are very glaring. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? So the entire narrative surrounding him is what we're talking about, not just the allegations themselves.
Regarding what one of his attorneys said, Alexandra Walsh, regarding it just being referring to a kiss goodnight, Dolphin said that that did not happen. She said the kiss didn't even happen. She said, I think Brett must have me confused with somebody else because I never kissed him.
Yeah, they're overselling this dude. That's the point. That's the point we're trying to make. They're overselling Kavanaugh, and there's a reason why they have to oversell him when they shouldn't even feel the need to. And that is beyond any allegations that were kind of made about him, the need to create this kind of poster boy, this choir boy, this innocent, neat and clean, never did anything wrong, never drank, never had sex. Like, what's the need to do that?
Well into his college years.
So again, this is not just about the allegations, because if you just want to make it about the allegations, it would be fairly easy to say, hey, we don't know, there's too many holes, there's things she doesn't remember, nobody can truly know. Okay.
So this is the thing here. This is the thing here, because again, like you said, nobody reasonable is saying at this point that we know that Brett Kavanaugh is guilty of these two allegations. We can't say that for sure right now. Now, we will say that the two allegations seem credible. I will say that every day, all day. They seem credible. Now, when you look at the effort to defend Kavanaugh and remove him from his actual past history, you remove the drinking, the binge drinking, the alcoholism. When you remove all of that, when you remove the fact that that caption of the young lady was in the yearbook many times, when you try to remove all of that history that can be proved, why are you doing that?
That does look suspicious, and I think that's kind of all we're like questioning here. And so to just kind of sequester this entire conversation to this one room of the allegation and the allegation itself seems a bit disingenuous.
There's other factors.
There's
other factors that lead me to believe that there's something here.
There's something here. You know what I'm saying? Because they're what they're talking around.
Exactly. So anyway, there were dozens of Yale law students on Monday morning. They filled the hallways of Yale Law School. They were dressed in black. They engaged in a sit-in, and this was a protest to demand an investigation into the sexual assault of Deborah Ramirez, who, of course, is a Yale alumnus. 31 Yale Law School classes were canceled as a result. There was also a press conference with multiple speakers, including victims of sexual assault. So look, man, this is absolutely not going away. It seems just to be ticking up in interest and in media coverage. We know we're coming to a point on Thursday where it seems as though Dr. Christine Ford is going to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. But there are Senate Democrats who are saying that these proceedings, all of them, need to be halted and they need to be delayed because there is now a second allegation that needs to be investigated and properly vetted. You can't do that by Thursday, of course. Even if you don't have the FBI involved in this investigation, there's no way that you can do a proper investigation, actually try to get to the root of these issues and determine if these two women are telling the truth or not.
Something tells me they knew the second one was coming too. That's why they're trying to rush this process through, because see, the first one is just, it's about him being, you know, young and in high school and immature and engaging in, you know, well, I can't say that because they're saying it didn't happen, but they're saying if it happened, he was young. Yeah. And so he kind of let him off the hook. But see, if this later stuff is true.
He's a grown ass man, right? He's 18 years old.
Because that's what Franklin Graham said. He was underage. He wasn't an adult.
Oh, the teenager. Even the GOP women. Oh, what 17-year-old boy has not done this? You know, they were teenagers.
Okay, yeah. Really? They're using rationale that they would definitely not use in their own life, whether it be, let's say, their own son or actions against their own daughter.
Exactly. That's why it was absolutely disgusting to see. I don't care who they are. You know, of course, coming from the GOP, that's to be expected. But coming from women especially, it's like, again, when you're talking about just promoting toxic masculinity, it's not just males that are involved in that. It's females as well. And they push it forward and they say things like, what 17-year-old boy has not done this? I haven't done it. My man Mike hasn't done it.
What kind of boys are they raising?
Exactly, man. I don't know any boys that did this.
Actually, I don't even remember. Like you said, I didn't even know them.
No.
So if they existed, I sure didn't know them. I was like thinking about, like, could I point to anything egregious that I have ever done?
In that light? In that kind of vein?
Probably the most I ever did was when I was 13. I grabbed a chick's butt. Didn't do any more after that because, chick, she gave me like this straight death stare, dog. You know what I'm saying? It was like a dare, and it was one of those dares, like, I dare you to do it, dare you to do it. Like, I did it. And that was the last time I did it. I was 13. Yeah. But like this, like, idea of covering somebody's mouth, taking their, trying to force their clothes off, turning up music, making sure nobody hears, that's something. That's like sadistic.
Yeah, that's like I said. That's way more predatory.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
We have a mutual friend. I remember back in 6th grade. I don't believe I had a girlfriend. 6th grade. I don't believe I had a girlfriend at the time. But the guys that did have girlfriends, like, they came together and was like, yo, okay, you gotta slap your girl's butt, right? You gotta go up to him, slap him on the butt. All right. Peer pressure, right?
Yeah,
to its finest, right?
God.
So I believe there were two of them. It wasn't me, but it was two of us that went to their girlfriend or whatever, smacked them on the butt. Nothing happened, right? The third one, he tried it. He went up to his girlfriend. He slapped on the butt. He got chased all throughout the rest of recess. She chased him and he was running for his life because she was angry.
I bet you he never did that junk again.
No, he did not.
You know what?
Again. And I still remember that.
I know who you're talking about.
Yes, I ain't gonna put him on blast.
We both know him to this day.
Right.
And like all throughout
And he's a good guy.
He's
too.
a good guy.
This was when we were like 11, 12 years old.
Like
now.
all throughout middle school
Yeah.
and then high school and thereafter, did we ever hear anything about
No,
this dude?
never. Not even once. Like I said, good dude. Again, there are certain things, and you know, like if you're 11, 12 years old, there might be certain things where you know you're gonna push your boundaries. I would hope that, you know, coming of age now, like, you know, coming in today's generation, like the parents, like me, the parents that are raising their kids, maybe they're more vocal about, yo, you can't be doing stuff like this no more. Because back in the day, I don't know if parents had that conversation with their kids. It wasn't to that degree, I don't believe, because I mean, like my mom never had I don't think a conversation with me, hey, don't be grabbing girls or stuff like that. It was just, that just wasn't what was talked about. I don't believe so. But I just think that now we're more aware of what's going on in our society, and I hope that does, you know, trickle down to little kids and be like, yo, you like you're little, but don't be trying to, I guess, like abuse
or invade
other people's spaces, you know, violate other people in that type of way. You can't do that, even as a little kid. But yeah, man, like I said, this story is not going away, of course. We will see what happens because, of course, we have a show on Thursday night. So if that you know hearing does take place, of course, we're going to have lots to talk about concerning the testimony of Dr. Ford and of Brett Kavanaugh, and we'll see how it plays out. I believe that it should be halted, of course, because again, there is more than one allegation now. I don't know, and I don't believe that Deborah Ramirez is going to testify on Thursday. There have been some talk about that, but I don't believe that's going to take place.
Nah.
So how can you hold a vote on Friday without hearing from Deborah Ramirez?
Who's that question directed to?
I think that's Space.
Okay.
I think that's directed to Space.
Yeah, because there's no Republicans that's picking that question. I'll answer that question. You will get zero answer.
Yeah. And like I said before, this is not partisan. Sexual assault, sexual misconduct, sexual harassment, none of that is partisan. All people want to get to is the truth, right? So there needs to be a fair process to get to that truth. And you need to have some type of investigation done to arrive at the truth. You can't speed this up. If this was a Democrat, we'd be saying the exact same thing. If this was a Green Party member, we'd be saying the exact same thing. If this was happening outside of politics, we'd be saying the same damn thing.
Wait a second, though. Think about this. In response to these allegations, Kavanaugh, as well as his congressional supporters and just supporters in general, they have actually come and talked about his character during those times. Kavanaugh has responded himself in detailing what kind of character he had at that time. Right. Now, if his character matters, like in response to these allegations, right? In that time period, whether he was in high school and shortly thereafter in college, if his character matters in regard to his defense, wouldn't his character matter in regard to if these allegations are true, even if they were 30 years ago? So how come his character matters now when it comes to his defense? And he's actually using that as, I guess, some sort of, I don't want to say qualification, but he's pointing to it. Like, I've done this all my life. I didn't engage in these activities in high school or in college. I've been like this all my life. So he is using his life and all of his life as some sort of, like, you know, I wouldn't call it a get out of jail free card, but he's using it as some sort of qualification factor. This is what my life has been about, even back then when I was in high school and shortly thereafter in college. This is how I engaged the world. This is how I treated women. I didn't do this. So if that kind of plays to his qualifications, why wouldn't that play to his disqualifications?
Right. And I would say, too, if you can disprove that his narrative, you know, if you can disprove his narrative of what he was back then, not talking about the allegations, but just about the character of him and his actions. If you can disprove his good old boy type of attitude, like what his behavior was like, oh, I wasn't a drunk, I didn't do this. If you can disprove that, then again, doesn't that lead credence to the allegations? Because why are you trying to sell a lie based on that same timeline? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
All
see
right.
what you're saying. I see what people say. I see what somebody's saying in the chat section, but I'm not going to address it. We'll move on to the next story.
Yeah. So another issue involving sexual abuse. Bill Cosby used to be America's dad, right? Bill Cosby from the Cosby Show. Today, on Tuesday, he was sentenced. He was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in state prison, and he will not have bail during appeal. So he was taken away in cuffs earlier today, and we don't know quite. I don't believe I know exactly where he was led or where he ended up, but he was escorted out of the courtroom, and he was eventually taken away. And that is his sentence, 3 to 10 years. And the judge, which the judge name is Stephen O'Neill, he ordered Cosby to serve the sentence in total confinement for no less than 3 years and no more than 10. So I don't believe this is a situation where it's like, okay, you're sentenced to 3 years and you're gonna get off with year and a half. Nah, I believe he's actually going to serve 3, and I believe there have been some experts that are saying that they expect him to serve a little bit more than 3. So Cosby is 81 years old right now. He's 81 years old. I believe he's legally blind, or I don't know if he's not legally blind. He is somewhat blind. Yeah, he's paying for his past crimes, and these crimes happen decades ago.
So a lot of these things happened more than 30 years ago.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now the particular crime that he was sentenced for, actually, I believe it was a culmination of all of his crimes, because there were, I don't know if there were a dozen or more than a dozen that actually spoke at the sentencing hearing about the crimes that were committed against them. But of course, the statute of limitations have ended. There's no, I guess there's no justice in their particular cases, but they did speak, in the sentencing hearing. And I believe that had a lot to do with Bill Cosby's sentence. So this is the first celebrity, to have been convicted and sentenced during this whole Me Too era now.
Yeah, because I guess all the evidence surrounding these allegations kind of come to light.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, look, I don't have any sympathy for Bill Cosby.
Oh, I don't. You know how I feel about Bill Cosby. That's not just about the whole sexual assault allegations. It's kind of his entire, I guess, socio-political view in general. You know what I'm saying? I think he, I don't know. I think he's just a very controlling person. Anyway, I think he's a very, I guess he's a person who does have, I guess, a very inflated view of himself as well, and his importance to the world, and especially importance to people who look like him.
Yeah, a lot of these crimes that he committed, they deal with slipping a woman some what would they call it? Quaaludes.
I think in one of his statements, he called it Spanish fly or something like that. Yeah,
something like that. And it would, render these women pretty incapacitated, or even just flat out unconscious. Mm-hmm. And he would do what he do, and like I said, a lot of these crimes he was not really held. He wasn't. These women didn't really get justice for their particular events, the sexual assaults that happened to them, but in a sense they did, because like I said, I'm sure that their statements that they read off, or that they spoke at the sentencing hearing, I'm sure they held some weight. So 3 to 10 years, like I said, I'm not feeling any kind of sympathy for him. I will say that even though I don't feel sympathy for somebody like Bill Cosby, because again, he did abuse his power, his stature, his clout, and he did what he did with women because he felt like he was enabled to do that. So I don't feel sympathy towards him, but when I see somebody like Brock Turner get only 3 months in jail for doing a very similar thing. It makes me think, like, what's going on here?
We've covered a few cases where rapists have gotten off on easy street as far as sentencing goes. Like the Stanford, the dude at Stanford.
That was Brock Turner.
That was Brock Turner.
Yeah, and then there was a Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. That's the one. Wisconsin.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah. Same colors. That's probably why I was like same colors.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he got off easy too. So it's like, again, I don't feel sympathetic because he got a harsh sentence. He's 81 years old, like I said, legally blind, whatever. Hey, you did the crime, man. Hey, you do the time straight up.
You would think that an older man would get the lighter sentence.
I would think so.
Yeah.
But like, I can't, like, as a black man, I can't disregard that Bill Cosby is a black man, and those two gentlemen that we're talking about were young white guys. Okay. And they got off easy.
So yeah, it's like, it's not that you are kind of excusing Cosby's behavior. You're looking at Cosby in a more broader sense of how it relates to how, I guess, sentences are handed out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Across the board.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, but anyway, like I said, no sympathy for him. And like we talked about with those other two situations with Brock Turner and the student that was at the University of Wisconsin, they should have got way more that was on their sentence. They should have got punished very severely, but they didn't. So it's not that I'm maligning the sentence of Bill Cosby. It's just that needs to be felt across the board, you know? Like, justice needs to be felt across the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's just a lot of things about Cosby and his kind of, personal psychology that we really don't know about. And so when it came to these allegations, everybody was kind of like thrown off, like, no, not Bill Cosby. Because like, what truly did we know about him other than he was Heathcliff Huxtable?
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what other accounts do we have about how he operated outside of his sexual assault allegations, and which later turned out to be true? Like, what other experiences did the people around him like have that would kind of give an indication that, this is the type of dude he is? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There's actually, y'all can go look up D.L. Hughley's comments on Bill Cosby, and he might enlighten you a bit. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into what he said, but if y'all have a chance, go look into that. That might give an indication of the type of person he was. It may give a little bit more clarity into, the connection between how he behaved during his career as far as an entertainer and as a comedian with other comedians and entertainers. It might draw people to a connection. So just look that up, people. D.L. Hughley comments on Bill Cosby.
All right, so let's move on to Botham Jean. Officer Amber Geiger, who is the officer who fatally killed Botham Jean, 26-year-old Botham Jean, in his own apartment in Dallas, Texas. Officer Amber Geiger was fired on Monday. So Police Chief Renee Hall, she fired Geiger during a disciplinary hearing after an internal investigation. An internal affairs investigation found that Geiger, quote, engaged in adverse conduct when she fatally shot Botham Jean inside his own apartment. So Geiger was initially hired in November of 2013, and she can appeal this firing. No word yet on if she will or not. Of course, she is still out on bond. There has really been no update to any charges that may be filed against her, or there's been no update about the charges being presented to a grand jury. I don't believe there's been any new statements from the Dallas DA, Faith Johnson, not that I've heard. So right now we're at a standstill.
So the department is pretty much saying she was at fault.
That's what I'm hearing.
Now, her being at fault leading to someone's death, right?
That's correct.
And this is what the department,
her own department
has determined.
Right.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So if she was at fault for his death, what does that tell you? tells you she's not just guilty of, I guess, fucking up on duty.
No, because even when officers mistakenly kill somebody, a lot of times their jobs are preserved. They don't get fired. A lot of times, way too often, they still retain their jobs. But in this sense, even though Amber Geiger, in her statement, that arrest affidavit, in her statement, she said, oh, well, look, I walked into the wrong apartment. Looked like there was an intruder there. Doesn't seem like the Dallas Police Department bought it.
No, because if they actually bought it, then they wouldn't have fired her, in my opinion.
I don't think so. Because like we said, it's really difficult to get an officer fired. They pull out all the stops to protect their own. So that she was actually fired for this. And I not to like, go back into this. I just keep thinking about her account and that she actually walked into another person's home. And I keep thinking, like, what a load of bullshit it is that he actually left his door open and she just walked in.
A load of bullshit it is that he was walking around his apartment while it was dark. Or just doing something in his apartment while it's completely dark. What a load of bullshit it probably is that none of the light from the outside came in when she opened the door.
That she didn't see the red doormat right in front of the door.
That she did not cut on the lights that are actually right by the door. Yeah. Right by the door. Right there. By the door.
Right
like
here.
Right there.
Right there. Until after she was on the phone with 911 and administering CPR to.
Oh, and after she shot him.
Anyway, so we don't have really anything new to report there. Like I said, we're still waiting on the grand jury taking this case and determining what charge. Because like I said, we don't know if it's going to be manslaughter. We don't know if it's going to be murder. We think it should be murder, but we'll see. Last week, the Laquan McDonald's trial started, and that is, my goodness, this is a trial that has been put off for so long. This happened in late 2014. Okay? It is now 2018. This is 4 years later. And so Officer Jason Van Dyke, he is on trial for the murder of Laquan McDonald. I believe we're 5 or 6 days into the trial, and I believe the defense is actually trying to present their case now. I think it was on Monday. A pathologist was testifying for the defense and was trying to sell the idea. Actually, she wasn't trying to. I don't know what she was trying to do, really, because she was getting into the bullets that actually hit Laquan McDonald.
Right.
And she was saying that most of them, I believe, except for maybe one, hit him while he was still standing. Even though the video reflects something totally different. The video shows bullets being fired at Laquan McDonald.
When he was not even moving.
When he was on the ground, not moving. So she was stating that, like, there was one particular shot. It was like one of the first shots that actually hit him and, I guess, in essence, ended up killing him. It wasn't the other shots. It was that shot. So I guess she's trying to sell the idea that, like, oh, all those other shots, they were really, inconsequential to his death.
Because really, it was the first shot that really killed him.
Right.
All the other shots were kind of inconsequential.
Yeah.
And then they only, like, made it worse.
Yes.
But
she was, I think she testified for about 3 hours, and she was just, it was a mess. It was a mess. It was a mess. She's trying to sell the idea that, yeah, even though Officer Jason Van Dyke emptied his clip and nobody else fired a weapon, all the other bullets, first of all, they were shot when he was standing up, so it wasn't like he was shooting a man that was already on the ground, which, again, the video reflects something totally different. So you're lying, of course, for your client, or for the person that you're defending. And then, all the other shots, hey, who cares? It was that one shot that killed him, so hey, we don't need to really, worry about those other shots.
Even though that was overkill and seemed a bit sadistic, like it was more than just a law enforcement officer enforcing the law. It seemed like there was something extra involved in that.
Yeah.
Because if that's what he was doing, I have no problem with that. Like, there's a suspect involved and you apprehend the suspect, you secure him and you do your job, that's fine. But then when you start unloading slugs into a body that's obviously motionless, there's something else that's going into your behavior. And it's not you doing your job as a police officer. There's something else there. There's something sadistic within inside of you and some sort of rage that's being expressed when you pump somebody's body full of bullets and they're motionless.
Can you imagine the particular type of, or the specific type of situation that would justify emptying a clip? We're talking about like 16 bullets.
If let's say if your life is in danger and someone is coming at you and continues to come at you as you're shooting them.
A shootout?
Yeah, or a shootout. Yeah, that would make sense for, a police officer to unload his clip. There are plenty of situations where I can think of where it would make sense.
A 17-year-old that's not coming towards you, who is walking with a knife in hand away from you, who's not coming towards you, you unloaded your weapon.
I don't know how you defend that. I don't know
They're
how
trying.
you defend that.
They're obviously trying. I can't imagine a case where this guy gets off. But we have been proven wrong before. Many have been proven wrong when it comes to officers that go on trial for murdering somebody. We've seen it all too commonly.
We're an open and shut case.
Yes.
Oh, well, a case we think is open and shut.
Hung jury. Mistrial.
Walter Scott.
Right. So I'm not taking for granted that this is still going to be a difficult outcome, but I expect a conviction, murder. That's what I expect. So in the coming days, we'll see how it shakes out. All right. We'll talk about Nike.
I mean, you did kind of go there during you didn't go there, but you went somewhere else during the Cosby segment. So I don't know if you want to skip the other one and go to that.
What other one?
The dude getting a light sentence.
Oh, well, okay. Well, you want to talk about that? Or
yeah, because you kind of went there.
Okay.
Kind of went there during the Cosby segment.
Oh, you talking about Snyder?
Snyder.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
So okay. All right. Let's talk about that. Last year, a grand jury in Anchorage, Alaska, indicted 34-year-old Justin Snyder on 4 felony charges, including kidnapping and assault, and 1 misdemeanor count of harassment, 1 offensive contact with fluids. The indictment was related to an incident in August of 2017 in which Snyder offered a ride to a woman in need of one. She was at a gas station looking for a ride to another town. So she got into Snyder's SUV, but instead of taking the woman to her destination, he pulled onto a dead-end street. Now, he told the woman that he needed to transfer some belongings from another vehicle into that SUV. So he asked the woman to step out of the vehicle while he could, perform this, this moving of his belongings. So she got out. He got out as well. And when he got to the back of the vehicle, he tackled her to the ground, started choking her. She passed out. She was unconscious. When she woke up, she saw that he was zipping up his pants. And she also discovered that he had masturbated on her. Now, before, I forgot to mention this. Before she passed out and while she was being strangled, he had been saying that he was going to kill her. So she thought that she was going to be killed that day. So again, when she woke up, she saw him zipping up his pants, noticed that she had been masturbated on. And then it was at that time that Snyder told her that he wasn't actually going to kill her. He just needed her to believe that he was going to end her life so that he could achieve an orgasm. So she was able to retrieve her belongings from the SUV, her phone, I believe, and while he was driving away from her, she got his license tag. She called the police, and she gave it to him. So eventually, he was arrested and charged. And like I said, grand jury charged him with 4 felony charges. So it was just last week on Wednesday that his case was actually settled. He struck a deal with prosecutors, pleading guilty to 1 count of felony assault, and received a sentence of 2 years with 1 suspended.
Why was that 1 suspended, Will?
Well, it's, it was suspended because, I guess because of, good behavior and time served. He walked out of the courtroom a free man because of the year that he spent on house arrest with his family.
House arrest. Man, that seems like a very extreme situation to have to deal with, especially after, you committed such a very small-time crime.
Yeah. I mean, kidnapping. Strangulation. I mean, if you masturbate on somebody, wouldn't that be sexual assault?
That would be sexual assault.
That would be sexual assault.
So that seems very, those are minor crimes. It makes sense to why that he got off so easily.
Yeah. I mean, well, he was forced to wear ankle monitors.
Oh man, ankle monitors.
When he was on house arrest, that's tough, man.
Not only tough, that's torture.
Yeah, because because you can't clean that area. I mean, you can wash, but it's you can't get the sponge there.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying?
That's torture.
That is torture.
So it probably itches and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Also, I guess this is something. I mean, he's going to have to serve 3 years probation too.
Probation. Which means that as long as he doesn't rape any more people or try to rape or masturbate on people or kidnap people and threaten to kill them, as long as he doesn't do that, or probably any other crimes as well, as long as he doesn't do that, he's good. They're not coming after him.
Yeah, but think about that cloud of probation.
Yo, exactly. I mean, to me, probation itself, that's traumatizing.
Oh my gosh, man.
I really feel for him.
I really feel for the guy, man. But again, he was able to walk out of the courtroom a free man. And it was the Anchorage Assistant District Attorney. His name is Andrew Granick. He said on Wednesday that he agreed to this plea deal based on Snyder's enrollment and progress in a treatment program and an expert assessment that the risk of him reoffending is low. So they don't believe that this guy will commit a similar type crime, so why not just let him re-enter society?
It'll be different if he made a split-second decision. You see what I'm saying? He made a split-second decision.
Exactly.
It'll be much different, but this was premeditated. Premeditated, and he had a plan, and he carried out that plan. And every step of the way, you kind of have to be very conscious about what you're doing and the tactics you're using to complete your task. And he did a lot of stuff. He lied to the woman. He made her get out. So he already had these kind of psychological tricks set up for her so he could do what he did. So, I just don't think somebody like that, you can just shut that off.
Think about the plan, though. He knew that he had to convince the woman that she was going to be killed for him to reach an orgasm.
So you telling me?
Do you understand the planning?
That has
to go into effect?
This dude planned out, or let's say planned. He faked plans for someone's death, so he could get to the point where he could orgasm. So here's the thing: if that's what it takes for him to orgasm, what makes a judge and a prosecutor think that that is something he will get over?
Yeah. How can that just soon? like you said? How can that change?
Does he have to go to any kind of counseling at all?
Well, like I said, he did enter a treatment program, and the progress that he's made has been so extraordinary that he is at a place now to where it is very low risk that he's going to reoffend.
Unless that treatment involves documentation that he can masturbate and get off in another kind of way that doesn't involve the pain of someone else
Right.
and being a sadist.
The pain and strangulation, convincing someone that you're going to
actually
kill them.
that's kind of how that's how serial killers get off, because they get off on that. They get off on people being like afraid for their lives.
But
they get off on that.
Think about the claim that he wasn't actually going to kill the woman. Was there a possibility that he could have killed her? You're talking about strangling somebody. Don't you think that maybe, I don't know if this dude has done this previously, but don't you think if he has to engage in this type of behavior, don't you think that there might be an accident one time where he actually does kill a woman?
That's the thing. It just seems like an easy step to take. Again, he gets off on somebody being afraid for their life. Like to me, he's just a step away from, doing the next thing, because again, he strangled someone to the point where they were passed out.
Yeah. Yes. There's a question asking, is he a white man? Yes, he's a white man.
I don't think that really matters in this case.
No, it doesn't matter. At the court hearing, I don't believe he expressed any type of remorse. He didn't apologize or anything. The victim was not there, and I don't believe they can find. I don't think they know where the victim is. I don't think they were able to find the victim. In regards to this court hearing or in regards to this plea agreement either. But they know what happened. So, being that they can't find the victim, I don't think that has any bearing on the sentence that Snyder struck, or the agreement that Snyder struck with the prosecutors.
Edward Norton would say whether he was a white man had anything to do with the sentence. Oh yeah, it matters. In that regard. Yeah. Well, like in regard to the story itself, no, it doesn't matter. But when you're talking about the sentence, yeah, I think you're right. It does matter because he's most likely shown some leniency because he was a white dude.
Yeah. So also too, of course, like. I said it before, this would seem like this was a sex crime. It seems like this is a sexual assault.
Seems
like it is. I mean, it seems like it's open in book. Look in the dictionary, this is a sexual assault, right? He was not charged with sexual assault. He was not convicted of a sexual assault. He did not struck a plea agreement for sexual assault. So he does not have to spend 1 minute on a sexual offender registry. Not even 1 minute. He is not on the registry whatsoever. So how stiff are these penalties for Snyder?
And it just seems like there's so much that went on during this crime. You would think, looking at how prosecutors love to stack crimes, there was a lot of very stackable crimes in this case. I'm like, usually kidnapping, that's like 10 years, bruh. Automatically.
It doesn't matter how long you kidnap somebody.
Doesn't. You can get a kidnapping charge just for holding someone at gunpoint.
Yeah,
if you take them at gunpoint and you walk them down the street or walk them to their house, that's actually kidnapping.
Exactly, because you transport them somewhere under duress. Man, he's out of jail, man. He's a free man.
So kidnapping, sexual assault, probably aggravated assault for the not the kidnapping, but the strangulation. So...
This is wild. And again, no sympathy thrown Bill Cosby's way. But again, 3 to 10 year sentence. This guy is out of jail.
We talk about like the red tape, I guess, concerning justice, or the red tape in the way or in the pathway of justice. And we're talking about police brutality and, like, I guess, ensuring that there's a just ending to a particular situation. Someone is held to account.
Right.
We talk about red tape involved in those situations, but what we don't talk about is the red tape involved in these situations with these sexual assaults, and the same kind of reluctancy to hold somebody accountable exists in this area too.
Yeah, it's very rare for somebody accused of sexual assault, rape. It's very rare for them to even serve any time for their crimes, and when they do, it's not a very long sentence. I think the average is about 3 years. So of course, within there is multiple scenarios where people are just given probation or maybe just a couple months in prison or something like that, a fine, community service, what have you. So this is an area where women are not being protected across this nation.
I think it was. I'm glad you used the word women.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to just look at this case and say justice was not served and this woman as a victim was not recognized. And just look at her in this case and say justice was not served and only have her in mind. But wouldn't other women be at risk too?
Yeah. And there's also actually, you know what? I don't think we're going to talk about that today. Maybe we'll talk about it on the next episode, on the next program on Thursday. But the Violence Against Women's Act, that is due to expire at the end of this month, September. And so that's sort of coinciding with this whole Judge Kavanaugh situation. Mm-hmm. So this is something that Congress is going to have to get together with to try to extend or, try to reauthorize or whatever. But it's something that is going to be reported in the media in the coming days. So that, like I said, that's something that we might have some commentary on, and I'm interested I'm interested to see how Congress is going to behave, specifically Republicans, in this type of conversation regarding the Violence Against Women Act. So, all right, let's talk about Nike now. All right, so a few weeks ago, Nike made a bold move by making San Francisco quarterback, or former San Francisco quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, the face of their 30th anniversary Just Do It campaign. And this sparked backlash, with some idiots actually destroying their already purchased Nike products. We showed some video of some idiots setting their shoes afire.
I like a fire.
I mean, these are products that they already own, of course. And there was one comedian that said, you know what? Of all the products that we saw destroyed, I ain't see you destroying Jordans. I ain't see you destroying I'm talking about some high priced Nike gear. I didn't see any of that.
Some very dusty ass running shoes.
Exactly.
And also, if you're looking at boycotting a company for their support of Colin Kaepernick, didn't Ford say that they were okay with Colin Kaepernick kneeling?
Yeah, that was last year. That was 2017.
Last year.
Yeah.
That seemed to go kind of under the radar.
It sure did. Ford, American company.
Ford tough.
Trucks.
Ford tough.
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody burning their F-150s.
No. There was no revolt whatsoever.
I didn't see nobody slashing their tires or their Explorers.
Nah. So, but anyway, at the time of this, the revelation of this campaign, we saw this as a calculated decision made by Nike. We saw this as a decision that wasn't likely going to harm them financially. Mm-hmm. Now, we considered, or we kind of talked about, if this decision they made, was it because they are woke? Was it because they really understood the struggle, understood
the issue that Colin Kaepernick became an advocate for?
Exactly. Or was this just a company that was making a sound business decision, right? So it turns out that by us stating that they could weather any type of storm because they are such a large corporation. Mm-hmm. Turns out that was an understatement. So CBS News reported on Friday that Nike added close to $6 billion to its market value since announcing a multi-year new deal with Colin Kaepernick. Now that is billion with a capital B. They have added $6 billion to their market value. $6 billion. Nike shares rose 36% and is now a top performer on the Dow's index of 30 blue chip stocks. Seems like it was a sound financial decision. $6 billion? And we're just talking about weeks. This wasn't last year. This wasn't a couple months ago. We're talking about weeks since they actually made this decision. So for all the people that believe that
they're burning their low, Nike's was going to cause some sort of domino effect. Again,
we're gonna go to Adidas.
We're gonna go to Adidas.
No. What they say?
New Balance.
We're gonna bring back.
We're gonna bring back New Balance. Again,
Reebok.
To us, to me, this is not about Nike. I'm not trying to like elevate some corporation. This is more about like looking at people and in their really futile ways in boycotting. Mm-hmm. Their futile efforts in trying to boycott a company, thinking that their little activity is going to cause some sort of ripple.
This is Nike. They are a large multinational.
They're
company.
the largest. Well, I wouldn't say the largest, but as far as apparel and shoes and athletic wear go, they're the largest.
Yes. You thought you were really going to make a dent in Nike's profits? Of course you weren't.
But see, the motive, what was the motive? And again, that's kind of what I'm focused on. The motive was Colin Kaepernick.
Yes.
So to me, it's not even about Nike. I'm not like, hooray, Nike, way far away from that. I'm not cheering on no corporation. But we all know why they had a problem with Nike. They didn't have a problem with Nike per se. They had a problem with Colin Kaepernick.
No doubt.
So they were burning shoes because they hated Colin Kaepernick and they hated what Colin Kaepernick stood up for. So that's kind of why I laugh. I'm not laughing because Nike is, the bottom line has increased and they're worth more. To me, it's more about like people's hate not being validated.
Yeah, that is funny. Again,
That's
like
funny.
if you go back and you rewatch the burning videos, you get a little chuckle because that did nothing. But now there's a new report from the Center for Responsible Politics, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan research group focused on money and politics. And the new report indicated that Nike employees and its political action committee donated more than 3 times as much money to Republican campaigns than Democratic campaigns in 2018. So in all, Nike has given $424,000 to the GOP compared to $122,000 to Democrats. The findings also showed a recent trend showing that Nike has donated more to Republicans than Democrats in every election cycle since 2010, with the sole exception of 2016.
That's weird. So they donated money to Republicans consistently. Well, I would say more money. Consistently.
Yeah, more, yeah.
Almost 3 times more.
They do both, but
way
but 3
times more to Republicans.
Right.
But when it came to the 2016 election, they were like, wonder why that is.
What happened in 2016?
Wonder what happened in 2016.
That was when Donald Trump was
Donald Trump. Yeah, that was the election, presidential election between Freddy Krueger and Jason.
Exactly. And which one is which? I don't know.
I would say Trump is Freddy.
See, I was gonna say Hillary's Freddy.
Really?
Yeah.
Cause see, Freddy is like very like in your face. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? He's always using like puns before he kills people. Yeah. He's always like sharpening his blades and just.
So you're saying Trump?
Cause see, he's the open. He's the out and open. To where Jason has the mask on, but he's the killer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He creeps up on you. See, Hillary Clinton creeps up on you. Comes up out of the lake.
Mm-hmm. But then Freddy, he creeps up on you on your dreams.
Yeah, but see, I'm looking at more of like personality wise, because like Freddy is just like Jason is that silent killer. Freddy will like tell you a joke before he kills you. You know what I'm saying?
All right, we're going too long on this.
shouldn't have been stabbing that pussy. Now I'm gonna stab you. You know what I'm saying?
All right. So, but anyway, so obviously. Again, so we have to go back to when we were talking about this initially and talking about the decision that Nike made to represent Colin Kaepernick in this manner. So again, we talked about, was this just a financial decision from a company, or was this a company trying to do the right thing, for a country that needed this type of guidance, that needed this type of action from somebody or a corporation with some semblance of stature, some effect, something like that. And again, we never went as far to say that Nike is woke and they're doing this because they know it's the right thing to do. I can't, even at this point, knowing this information and how, of course, this was a sound financial decision, I still can't say that Nike doesn't realize that, you know, like the epidemic that's going on in the country, like the actual events that's going across all of the United States of America, in which there is police brutality, in which you know, black unarmed people are being disproportionately shot and killed by police officers at a higher rate than white people. So I still don't know what the mentality of Nike is, and I don't even know if they even care so much, you know.
See,
I don't know if they even care.
I think
what it shows me is that when it comes to Nike decisions, money reigns supreme.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're still a corporation.
Exactly.
And like the most important factor in, I guess, and how they make decisions is their bottom line. But looking at this, you know, new information that came forth concerning who they donate more money to, you think that's going to make Republicans shut up?
You would think so, right? You would think you would think like Republican supporters would be like, "Hey, hold on." So they're actually trying to advance Republicans in Congress? Huh.
Is that going to make the right-wing reactionaries unburn their Nike products?
You think they're going to feel good about that?
I think they're probably going to feel worse. But like we said, at the end of the day, it's about their bottom line.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know if it has to do with ideology, like you said.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
Who, like, individuals who are donating money to Republicans, we have to ask why. Because they also donate to Democrats. So it doesn't seem ideological to me.
No.
Maybe it just depends on who's in power in a specific area. That determines who's getting the money, who's in power, and what state are they in. Because these donations could have something to do with maybe them trying to find favor in policy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you got to have, you know, I guess, construction contracts. You have, tax breaks. You know what I'm saying? Different things like that.
Something that is very historic as it relates to the Republican Party is that they are always pushing tax breaks for the wealthiest people and for corporations. Just late last year, this Republican administration and a Republican Congress, they signed off on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, right? Which
would benefit somebody like Nike. And
it would benefit many corporations because they took that top rate of what it was 35%. They knocked it all the way down to 21%, even though most companies, most corporations were not actually paying that 35%. The effective rate was somewhere like 17%. So by knocking it down to 21, what is the effective tax rate now? It's not 17 anymore. And these massive companies too, some of them were not even paying taxes. They were getting a rebate. So you would think that somebody that as large as Nike is, they would have that in mind because, of course, like you said, they're interested in their bottom line.
And they want favorable treatment in all kind of ways, not just in regard to taxes, but maybe in regard to like zoning laws or permits. So again, they're just going to give money to who's ever in power in whatever area because they see the benefit in that.
Yeah.
And so I just don't see there being some sort of ideological tie to who they give money to and why they give money to them. Because at the end of the day, these corporate executives don't stand to lose anything in this fight. You know what I'm saying? They have no stake in it, really. Right. You see what I'm saying?
So really, like you said, so ideology is something that I don't think we can consider when these businesses, when these corporations actually make moves.
Because you can't say they're affected by being on one side or being on both sides. I'm just saying be affected personally.
Right.
You know what I'm
Unless
saying?
they have a track record in their movements, like Ben and Jerry's. Like, they have a track record of actually supporting progressive positions and progressive politics, progressive campaigns. They have that track record and that history of doing so. Now, if Nike had that similar type of track record, then, of course, I mean, I think you can deduce, like, I guess, their thinking, I guess, translates into the campaigns that they're going to be supporting. But when you have a company like Nike that is feeding both sides of the aisle, and one side of the aisle way more than another, but that side of the aisle does not jive with supporting Colin Kaepernick, then you have to toss ideology out.
Yeah, and also you have to toss ideology out because I don't think Nike ever made an official statement about like Colin Kaepernick's specific issue.
No, I don't think they did.
They didn't because Nike made them the spokesperson for a particular campaign, Just Do It campaign. It wasn't a campaign whose slogan was, I don't know, don't shoot it, and they made the Nike symbol into a gun or something.
Right.
So it wasn't even about Colin Kaepernick's particular cause. And if you look at the commercial, you can see that too. Yeah. It was just about overcoming adversity, and they used a host of characters. They just used Colin Kaepernick's voice. They didn't really use his cause. And I think like if you're going to look at maybe some overreactions on the right in regard to this, Nike choosing Colin Kaepernick as the voice for this campaign as a spokesperson, I honestly think there was some overreaction on the left too.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And a lot of people on the left were rushing out to buy some new Nike gear because they felt like this was the right move. But again, like you said, Nike never came out with an official statement saying that, hey, we support Colin Kaepernick on this particular agenda. Like, we recognize that police brutality is affecting this certain part of the community in a profound way, and something they didn't say anything about that whatsoever.
And whether it be people who kind of jump to champion Nike, I guess that's another, I guess, prong to it. But I think there's another side to it that involved people trying to like jump ahead of the curve, the making sure Nike is not seen as down for the cause or a woke company. Right. There was some people that kind of tried to tone police a lot to make sure people didn't see Nike as a woke company, and I think that tone policing may have been, I don't know, maybe it may have been sparked by the assumption that because they chose Colin Kaepernick that Nike inherently like felt the same way he did. Like they adopted his activism too, which I never saw to be the case. I never thought, like, they never came out and made a specific statement about Colin Kaepernick and his particular cause.
I'll still say that, look, on this issue, of course, Nike has aligned themselves on the right side of history. I think that history will show that they were on the right side. Now, again, if you look deeper than that, was that because of a financial decision? I think that is the case. But still, I will give them a little bit of credit for giving Colin Kaepernick the opportunity to, I guess, promote his agenda. Because, look, they're paying the man. The NFL's not paying the man. They're paying him a pretty, like, this was a top tier level deal for an athlete with Nike. So again, I'll give him a little bit of credit for giving him this opportunity, for establishing a product line for him, and for donating to his charity. Like I said, there are good decisions here, but it just so happens that it coincided with a sound business decision as well. Yeah. So again, I'm not going to say that they're woke. I'm not going to say that at all, and I didn't say that to begin with as well. I'm just going to say, again, they're on the right side of history, but it's because they calculated the risk and they calculated what the overall effect would be, and they cashed in.
Yeah, they did. They cashed in. They cashed in. I think people just shouldn't overplay their hand in trying to make sure everybody knows that, Nike isn't woke. Because I don't think it's that widespread. I just think that anybody who are buying Nikes because they chose Colin Kaepernick as a spokesperson is only doing that because we live in a consumer culture.
I don't know about that.
Well, no. I think it's connected.
How widespread it is. I think it is kind of widespread.
No. I think it's widespread, but not widespread for like the most stated reasons. I still think that that still has to do with us living in a consumer culture, right? And then like valuing ourselves based on what kind of consumer goods we can buy. Yeah. But who we like, I guess, what we choose to buy and how that relates to like who we, I guess, cherish as figures. That's not new. No, that's not new. So it's like, if that's the case now with Colin Kaepernick, I personally, I don't see that as some sort of like revelation or something that is just unique to this situation. That has always been the case where corporations use certain figures and certain icons
to advance their business.
To advance their business because they understand people like relate to them. So if that is happening, like, to me, that's not surprising. It makes sense that that is happening. I just don't want to act like this situation is like the only situation where that's happening. You know what I'm saying?
Once his product line gets out there, I'm sure there's going to be another wave of support and, like I said, financial support for Nike. And you know, I'm cool with that as well because, of course, people are gonna want to support the cause, gonna want to support Colin Kaepernick and his mission. So, like I said, I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine with what Nike did. Like I said, because they are business and they make calculated decisions to advance their business interests. So, like I said, I don't have any disdain for Nike right now. I mean, not on this front. Again, them donating to Republicans, look, for me, yeah, that's a bad look. But hey, this country allows that to happen, you know? So they may be taking advantage of the situation, but there are countless other corporations that are doing the same thing. And as it relates to Republican campaigns, we know that the Republican campaigns are going to be there for these corporations if they get in office. They're going to institute these tax breaks. You know, they're going to, like I said, they're going to bend over backwards if they can get the donations into their campaigns. More so with the Republican Party than the Democratic Party. But both parties are in it. It's just more so with Republicans. So
yeah, would it have been like any better if we found out that they donated to Kamala Harris and Cory Booker?
Yeah. I mean, look, it would have maybe felt a little bit different because obviously if you're supportive of Colin Kaepernick, you probably tend to support the left. You know what I'm saying? So I guess it would have felt a little bit different. It would have, I guess, spoke more to the ideology of Nike if that was true. If they were supporting Democratic candidates 3-1, you know what I'm saying, over Republican candidates, it would have said something different. But as you can see, if it's the other way around, it's like, okay, these mugs are not leading with their ideology whatsoever.
That's because it's really not the ideology is.
Yeah, exactly. It's only green. That's
only
it.
Green.
But hey, like I said, this country allows that to happen. So as soon as we disallow that, then these corporations can't take advantage of that. You know. All right. Rod Rosenstein. That's the last thing we're going to talk about tonight. Rod Rosenstein, there's some controversy going on with him. He's the Deputy AG, Deputy Attorney General. And late last week, there were some reports that Rod Rosenstein had made some, I guess, disparaging comments about President Trump. I think going back, this was last year, actually. But it's surfacing right now. So it's been reported that Rod Rosenstein had discussed secretly recording President Trump and invoking the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from office. Now, Rod Rosenstein has denied these allegations. I believe it is believed that this was a joke. Like, most people that are familiar with the situation believe that he was joking if he had said this.
Well, yes, like he said it sarcastically or in jest in response to something. Right. Because there was,
it's not like he just brought it
there
up.
was like a whole narrative surrounding this briefing.
Yeah.
But like the New York Times broke this story. And unfortunately, they broke the story with not having sources that were actually at the briefing. Their sources, their White House sources, talked to people who were at the meeting.
Right.
That's the first problem. There wasn't actually a first-hand accounting. Somebody who was actually at the briefing pretty much backed up Rosenstein and said his comments about, you know, I guess, wearing a wire on Trump was pretty much in jest and was pretty much sarcastic. I think it was when after the briefing occurred after the Comey firing. And I think McCabe was pressing the Department of Justice to explore obstruction of justice charges against Trump. Like, he was pressing. And I think from what the person who was there said, Rosenstein, like, responded, like, in a very, like, what do you want me to do, man? Like, I can't do anything. He's like, so what do you want me to do? Like, have a wire put on him, or have a wire put on somebody? You know what I'm saying? Like, basically saying, there's not much I can do. So the whole thing surrounded Rosenstein feeling his hands were actually tied with Trump, and he was like, I can't do anymore. What else you want me to do? Wear a wire?
It seems like this should be a non-story. It really does seem like this should be a non-story, but I believe because it is Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, that's why this is an issue. So Republicans and Donald Trump, they have had very negative feelings towards Rod Rosenstein because, of course, Rod Rosenstein is the one that is overseeing the Mueller investigation. The Attorney General, Beauregard, he recused himself. So it was Rosenstein that I believe signed off on, a FISA warrant, that allowed that to go through. So, of course, like I said, there's been some very disparaging statements that have been that Rosenstein has been a target of. And there have been some Republicans that have, I guess, urged President Trump to fire Rod Rosenstein well before this. So for right now, because President Trump, he's been busy with the UN. He's been, with the UN General Assembly. Today, he made a speech to that General Assembly. So he hasn't had any time to speak with Rosenstein, but they are scheduled to meet at the White House on Thursday. So it is then that it is expected to come to some kind of decision whether Rosenstein is going to be fired or not. Rosenstein is not expected to resign, right. So he would have to be fired by President Trump.
There was like all these reports saying that Rosenstein was planning on resigning like yesterday. Like
there were so many
on Monday.
Yeah, there were like minute after minute after minute. Like it was like, how y'all got all this information? All this new information, just like minute after minute after minute. So, there's no indication that he is going to resign. So, again, it would have to be President Trump that fires him. And so if President Trump did fire him, which I think is very possible, that kind of throws the Mueller investigation into a whirlwind maybe. You don't really know what's going to happen. The next in line that would, I guess, oversee the Mueller investigation would be... it would be the Solicitor General Noel Francisco. He's the next in line, and so he would assume the duties to oversee the investigation. Now, the problem with that is that Francisco, his background, the background is the problem. So it seems like Francisco might have to recuse himself as well.
Yeah. So
Francisco used to work at the law firm Jones Day. He worked at the law firm when Jones Day was representing Trump with the Trump campaign in 2016 for president of the United States. So there's not any sound evidence that Francisco actually worked on anything as it pertains to the campaign, but still him being there at the law firm would suggest a conflict of interest and would suggest that he would have to recuse himself.
I think that's like a lot of people have been mentioning that. I guess when you're talking about what would happen if Rosenstein was fired, and how Trump is not really in the clear, even if Rosenstein is fired, because like you said, his replacement might have a conflict of interest that might cause him to recuse himself, no differently than Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions. So right. Firing Rosenstein is not necessarily a solution that may get the results Trump thinks he's gonna get.
Right. And then so if this did play itself out like we just suggested, like Rosenstein gets fired, then it falls to Francisco, who then has to recuse himself. Then it would fall into the hands of Stephen Engel, who is the Associate Attorney General in charge of the Office of Legal Counsel. So, like I said, this is a, I mean, this is a ridiculous type of scenario. If, like I said, if Trump does actually go forward and fire Rod Rosenstein. Now, this person who is in charge, whether it be Francisco or whether it be Engel, they would be in charge, I guess, until Trump was able to name a successor to, Rod Rosenstein's position. But I don't believe he could just name a successor. I think that would have to go through the Senate.
That would
have to be confirmed by the Senate. So we're talking about a long process here.
Yeah. So he doesn't have a lot of places to go. Talking about Trump.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
But I don't think that. I think the point was to try to create some sort of story in order to, give Trump an excuse to fire Rosenstein. This seems like a Trump associate plant.
Yeah.
Because last time I checked, the sources that divulged this information about what Rosenstein said during a briefing, they were anonymous, right? Mm-hmm. I thought Trump didn't like anonymous sources.
He doesn't.
Not only did he not like anonymous sources, specifically, this story broke from the failing New York Times.
Yeah. You remember recently there was another story that broke with the New York Times.
Yeah. I call that Republican, I guess, operatives trying to save Republicans. Mm-hmm. That's what that was. Talking about the anonymous op-ed that was penned, that I guess that detailed how they wanted to save America, but the Trump was undermining that.
Right, coming from a senior official.
That's Republican strategists trying to save Republicans from Trump. So either way, I think both of these situations are Republican operatives or Trump operatives.
But if Trump is using a New York Times story to schedule a meeting with Rod Rosenstein.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
The failing New York Times.
The failing New York Times. He just said was failing. Well, he said that many times, but the most recent time was
not long ago. Just a couple weeks ago.
Just a couple weeks ago. Yeah, this seems like a story that was planned to give Trump an excuse to fire Rosenstein. He's been trying to fire Rosenstein since the beginning. So,
but see, then if he actually does fire Rod Rosenstein, then I think a lot of people would think that would lead to Robert Mueller's firing as well. Now, see, if there have been a lot of Republican congressmen, congresswomen that have said that no, you can't do that, Trump. That would be a horrible look, and I think that would if Mueller actually has something on Trump, then that would amount to high crimes and misdemeanors.
I think they're trying to prevent that report from coming out because they may not, truly think that Mueller is going to present some sort of case for impeachment or a case that may result in Trump being prosecuted after he leaves office. Regardless of any of that stuff happen, there's going to be a damn report.
Yeah. But see, do you really think that either way, if Mueller is fired or not fired, do you really think the information wouldn't come out?
True.
Either way, if there's something that pertains to Trump in a negative way, it's going to leak, regardless of if Mueller is fired or not.
Yes, I think Trump and his lawyers know that because I think one of his lawyers released a statement a couple of days ago that said the investigation should be on timeout if Rosenstein gets fired or leaves.
Very.
Like what does Rosenstein leaving have to do with the investigation?
Yeah, because Mueller is conducting the investigation, not Rosenstein. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna open this up for callers now. It's about 9:15, so we've gone a little bit over 2 hours. So we're gonna open this up for callers. Definitely, we do want to hear from you. We've had a lot to talk about. Much of it has to do with Kavanaugh, of course, because that is a lot. Well, that is the majority of what is being discussed across this country, especially in the media. There's so much to talk about there. Again, there's a second allegation that doesn't seem like the Senate Judiciary Committee wants to talk about. So definitely, we want to hear from you. We want to see what you think about it. Do you feel that the allegations into Kavanaugh, do you feel that they are credible or not? Do you believe that there should be an investigation? Do you believe that these hearings should be postponed until, I guess, the truth is found out, like I said, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts. So definitely give us a call. The phone number to reach us is 669-900-6833. And we're going to try to set this environment up so that we can take these calls. Let's see here. I wonder with that new piece of equipment if we'd just be able to take calls through that too. I think there's a way you could do that.
The Wirecast?
No, through
the software?
No.
Like through the interface itself?
Yeah, through the interface. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember researching that one time, but it's been a long time since I did that. All right, let's get into this. All right, so at the moment, I don't believe we have any callers waiting for us.
Oh, boy.
All right, and we'll be reading the chat, too, to see if you have any questions or comments.
Oh, there's been plenty of comments. some very spacious arguments people were using.
Is that right?
Like, I think it's like, I don't think people realize how ridiculous their arguments are, especially when it comes to Mueller. This is not about Mueller. I do think it's interesting that if we're talking about, you know, anything that Mueller has uncovered or anything that Mueller has presented, what's done to him is like what's done to, I guess, people who are maybe investigating certain things that I guess the certain members of the public don't want to think are true. And what's happening with Mueller is now he's on trial. Yep. It's like, is any of the thing he's presenting are true? Does that even matter in the scheme of things? Because there's anybody in our government who's in charge of, I guess, criminal prosecution on a large scale, most likely they're going to be people who are involved in this American system of imperialism. There's no way you can get away from that. So bringing up what Mueller has done in his past and what he represents is irrelevant. Both can be true. He can be a part of this stuff, and the purpose or the person he's going after can be guilty of something. Both of those can be true. One does not like get rid of the other. So,
all right. Caller that is waiting is from the 770 area code. Caller, you're on the air live with LTMB.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on, man?
Tony.
It's Tony.
How you doing, Tony?
All right, man. Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it's not really a real slow news because, you know, history is being made every day, but it just seems kind of slow news.
Well, Kavanaugh is dominating the news coverage. Like I was reading, I was trying to read different types of articles about something else that's going on, and much of it is all about Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah, my take on that is this dude he's applying for a job. Yeah. Like people go to job interviews and get denied jobs all the time just based on they pick their nose. So to me, it's like nothing. It's like okay, he's disqualified. Next person. I mean, how more simple can it get?
It's as simple as that. Like we said, he's filling out a job application to be a Supreme Court justice, and the background check.
No, I was about to ask you what that job was.
Yeah, the job is to be a judge on the Supreme Court.
A lifetime appointment. So shouldn't that like background check and reference check and all those checks probably be a little bit deeper than it would be for like any other ragtag job?
Yes, like I think it should be just a little bit more intense than if you were filling out an application to become a cashier or something like that. Just a little bit.
Seems like
just a little.
Yo. I went to a job interview. I think I told y'all on probably previous shows. I know you get a lot of callers and y'all cover a lot of topics, so you don't remember everything. And I know you ain't gonna remember my ass, but I remember I applied for a job for being on the police because I'm 20-year military. They didn't give me the job because of a question they asked me and I didn't say it right, and they were like, "Oh, I don't think he's qualified for this job." I mean, all right, whatever. I'm not qualified. 20 years in the military. Okay, good to go. Whatever.
Right.
This dude rapes people, and they still considering this asshole. Oh, well, I think he might still be able to be qualified to do a good job. Get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah, man.
That does kind of put things in perspective when you mention your own situation.
The country's so full of shit, dude. And I don't, I really don't care.
Yeah, because they don't care. We're talking about a sexual assault allegation, and not just one. We're talking about two. Look, I've said it so many times before that every case has to be judged on its own merit. So just because there is an allegation, I'm not just going to automatically convict somebody. I'm just not automatically going to say this person is guilty. But what I am going to do is go through the allegations. I'm going to determine, the character of the accuser. I'm going to actually consider the effort to protect and support the person that is being accused of something. You know what I'm saying? So Brett Kavanaugh, his whole history is trying to be reframed. He's trying to be framed in this good guy, this squeaky clean individual that doesn't have a history in binge drinking and this party style lifestyle or anything like that. And why would you have to do that?
We all grew up in this country too. We all grew up in this country too.
Right,
we saw everything that happened in college. We know what everybody fucking did. I mean, he's full of shit, dude. I mean, it's not even a question. I mean, I don't understand, but people fall for it. Usually, the people over the age of 55, they'll be like, "Oh, well, I think he might be a good guy. Get the fuck out of here, dude. You don't."
Nah, man.
Y'all don't know nothing because y'all were disconnected from the younger generation.
Exactly. Anybody that's below the age of 40, 45, something like that, I think you'd have to know. You'd have to know.
I'm in my 40s, man. I'm in my 40s. And I already know. 20 years military. I see it all. I've seen it. I kept seeing it even when I was in. I kept seeing it over and over again. These kids are like 18, 19. They're doing the same mistakes as I did when I was first joined.
Powers up.
There's obviously something there. There's obviously something to these allegations. Like I said, look, this is going to come to a head at some point. I believe that this is going to leave a permanent stain on the Republican Party and the Supreme Court bench if he is actually confirmed. If these senators actually confirm this guy for how can you ever remove that stain that you just, especially in this era as well? Like I said, 2017, 2018, women are starting to come forward like they never did before. Their stories are being heard. They're being supportive. They're being encouraged to come out and actually convey to the people what happened to them. And in that type of environment, these Republican senators are saying, meh, meh,
yeah,
nah.
You're right, man. You're right. Also wanted to comment, on the Bill Cosby thing. Now, especially in the black groups, I be seeing it people talk about, well, Bill Cosby's getting sentenced for this rape, and it's like, yeah, and they're like, but that's wrong because all these white dudes be getting these real lenient sentences, and I kind of see where they're coming from, even though it's on a state by state issue, but I do kind of see where they're coming from. And then to segue into that, I'm seeing this one story. It's not about rape though. This is about this kid in Detroit. He spit in some people's pizza. Now, it correlates is that this kid is black. Spit in these people's pizza. Next thing I know, this kid's on the 6 o'clock news. It's like, wait a second. People do this all across America. People, they spit in people's food. They'll do something to their food because they were treated like crap by the customers. These kids will spit in your food. They'll do whatever to the food. But this kid is going on national TV, or basically national TV, the local national TV in Detroit, and he's made an example of. And I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, I think I saw that story earlier today too, where he got arrested for that spit in, but I didn't see what he was actually being charged with or what he may be facing because of that.
Yeah, and it just plays into the whole. He's black obviously, and Bill Cosby's black, and it's like people be doing these crimes, And we see the videos on YouTube or Facebook. You see like white employees, they do the same thing. Are they on national TV and being shamed? I don't see it. Do you see it? Maybe I'm seeing something wrong. Maybe I'm missing it. Do you see it?
I mean, I haven't seen it. Nothing like that.
No.
Thank you.
That. And I do think that it is interesting that they chose that as an example to highlight. Because there's got to be some or certain level of consciousness involved in pushing a story like that. You know what I'm saying? These people who run these news organizations, they've been around the block a few times, so they know what is out there. They know what kind of actions and what kind of behaviors are constantly going on. So they make a conscious decision to promote this one story. There has to be some element of race involved. Because they're, like I said, they've been around the block a few times, so they know what's up. So why promote this one story?
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Because I worked in fast food when I was younger, and some of these jokers were college students. Some of them went to Georgia Tech, and I remember that like people used to piss them off and stuff, and they would do the exact same thing: spit in their food, put dead cockroaches up underneath the pepperoni. These were white guys that went to Georgia Tech. How many black people go to Georgia Tech? These were white guys that went to Georgia Tech. I don't see. They never went to the. It wasn't in the news, and there was no big thing. This big fucking dragging through the fucking social sphere that I'm seeing with this black kid, and that's what pisses me off. Then I see other black people co-signing and, oh yeah, we got to get him. That's what it's like. No, okay, yeah, we got to get him. We got to get those other people too. All right, that's the double standard I be seeing.
Like I said with Cosby, man, like I got no sympathy for him because he committed a crime, no doubt. So I mean, he did it multiple times too. I got no sympathy for him. But what I said was, I mean, look, I'm for justice across the board, and what we see is that certain types of people get lenient sentences. It seems like the judges or the prosecutors, or even both, in many situations, they feel like there are redeemable qualities in these certain type of people, and like they deserve a second shot at life. They deserve a second shot to actually mess up again. And they get these, like I said, they're like, we talked about Brock Turner, talked about the Wisconsin rapist. We talked about this guy in Alaska now that is going home after only serving like a year, a year in like home confinement with an ankle monitor. And that was a violent crime that he committed. But again, there's something redeemable about them. But for some reason, we don't see the same thing as it concerns people of color. You have to highlight that. Like, I can't ignore that whatsoever.
Yeah, and he pretty much nailed it. But that's all I wanted to call in on. I'm going to let somebody else get a chance to call in. Maybe Will will call in and provide me some laughs. I see him in the comments.
See, why you gotta call Will out like that, yo?
No, I like Will. Will's a good dude, man. But I like it when he calls in. But I'll talk to y'all later, man.
All right.
I appreciate you calling in, Tony.
Man. All right.
All right, we're going to get to the next caller. I believe the next up is 512 area code. 512, you're on the air live with LTMB.
Hey, what's up, guys?
On Facebook, so I could go back and look at it, but I never did, though.
Right, yeah. I mean, Beto, in my opinion, is not very good at debates, unfortunately. Not that I agreed with anything Cruz said, but he was way better at it. He was quick to respond to everything, and Beto just looked like a deer in headlights the whole time. So
that's not good.
Not that good. But maybe he'll still step it up next time. There's another one this Sunday, I believe. Yeah, this Sunday. But yeah, that Kavanaugh thing, it's just you I think you said something along the lines of, why don't we just move on to the next one? Well, politics they're so tribal. It's like you join a tribe and you can't see, you only have your set of facts from your tribe. Any other facts are they will not penetrate you whatsoever. They're all wrong. You just believe what your tribe believes. It's amazing to me. And you know what? The left is just as guilty of a lot of that stuff. But I will say the right believes some crazy shit. Some crazy shit. Like you know, the most of the right, you're talking about how blacks are disproportionately murdered by police. They don't even believe that. They believe that whites are. No, they do. Most of them believe that those numbers are wrong and that they have the right numbers.
That's
you know,
funny,
it's
though.
this whole.
That's funny that
no, they
true.
do. Like this huge YouTuber who's in Austin. I know because he's in Austin. Have you ever heard of him? His name's Steven Crowder. I mean,
Steven Crowder.
Louder with
Crowder.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah, he does this show that's like, I don't know, male privilege doesn't exist. Convince me wrong. It's always a topic. Says convince me that I'm wrong, which is total. He's not looking to be convinced that he's wrong. But he'll go out to like UT here in Austin and set up this thing with cameras. He's just out in public and he has people come up and try to debate it. I'm sure he edits out actual good arguments.
Yeah.
But he went, he's one of those guys who's just like, you cannot throw people, and I've seen people try to debate him, throw facts, and was like, no, that's wrong. That fact's wrong. Mine's right. It's like, you're not really looking to be convincing you're wrong because you're only going to believe the fact that you want to believe. What's that?
He tries to shame people. I've seen him do it many times.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. He's very disingenuous in how he engages with people. Mm-hmm. So he sets it up to where he will always win because he doesn't actually deal with the person in front of him. He actually deals with a straw person. That's how he always defeats the person because he's not actually talking to the person. He makes straw man arguments for the person, or he distorts their argument to the point where he wins every time. So he comes into an argument very disingenuously.
He doesn't necessarily win, though. He uses facts that are not correct. And he's usually debating kids, that are inexperienced. They don't really know how to, he's got the topic already and he's brought all these facts on the topic. And these are just people walking on the street. They may not know all these facts about it and know whether or not to argue with them. You know who Joe Rogan is, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So he had him on his show and he called him out on it. And, he's talking and he kept bringing up these facts and Joe Rogan's like, that's just not right, man. And he pulls it up on Google. I mean, they were arguing about stuff like gas mileage on cars. He was saying that you'd get better gas mileage buying a Ford Fiesta from 2000 Ford Fiesta than you would buying a Prius, that Prius was all liberal bullshit. And he's like, that's just not true, dude. And he pulled it up and showed him the gas mileage. He's like, look, it's way better. And he goes, well, no, what I meant by that was that if you bought an older car, you'd save money, you'd save the environment by using a recycled car. He's like, look, dude, that's not what you said. And you're just digging your heels in because you can't ever be wrong and you use incorrect facts. And when people call you out on it, you just move the goalpost. That's how these people are. They don't even know what they're talking about. He literally thought that a Ford Fiesta from 2000 got better gas mileage than a Prius because that's what his right wing, whatever, teaches them.
I'm glad you mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned the whole factor of when he sets up these tables and runs these games like, hey, this is my position, prove me wrong. It's people if we're being honest. I would say that most people don't really know how to articulate their position as it pertains to a given issue. If you're talking about politics, if you're talking about a social position or something like that, I don't know if most people can actually hold a conversation with you on an intellectual level. They may have an opinion, but can they expound upon it? Can they really dive deep in it? Do they have data to recite? Did they read an article yesterday? Can they just recollect just anything about what they're actually talking about? Steven Crowder does this for a living. So of course he knows exactly what his talking points are. So he's able to just kind of, it's not even defeating. It's just it's a shameful win. It's not a win. It's just it's a trick. That's what it is. It's a trick.
It is. And he's picked, it's not open debate on any topic. He's picked a very specific topic. And he's come armed to the teeth to research that topic. And his facts are wrong. Like one of them was on women's voting. They were arguing male privilege, and that was that one. And the lady's like, well, women couldn't even vote. And he throws this fact out there that's like, women didn't want to vote. Well, they didn't understand enough to argue that fact. And that point is that he doesn't know that. No one really knows what women wanted. It was they just based that off the fact that they asked a certain number of women to come to this place and put a ballot in that said that they wanted to vote. And out of the 100 women they asked, only, a handful of them did. Well, that doesn't even mean that those women didn't want to vote. Maybe they were scared. That's a crazy statement to make just based off that. Like, who knows what was actually going on in women's minds back then? So he made it sound like, no, women weren't even oppressed. There was no male privilege. It was all women who didn't want to vote. It was their choice. And it's like, you can't really say that. You don't really know that. I don't know. But it just comes to this whole tribalistic thing. And, you have certain people who on the right will every once in a while, it's rare, but even that, what's her name? Tommy Lauren, that right-wing blonde pretty chick that's like really hardcore right-wing for Trump. I think her name's Tommy Lauren. Right.
What you call him?
She's pro-choice.
Tommy Larva.
She is pro-choice. What's that?
I said we're familiar with Tommy Larva. I don't call her by her name.
Right.
Teriyaki lentils.
Teriyaki, yeah.
Yeah. But she is pro-choice, and she gets when she came out and said that, she got torn apart by her own people. It's so tribal. Like, you cannot be a part, especially if you're a celebrity like that, and you're like for the right and politically a celebrity. You cannot disagree with your party on anything. It's so crazy to me. And like I said, the left's like that too. You have to be their tribe. It's been like that for so long. Like, you have the red and the blue, and that's your team. And the whole thing's bizarre to me. But yeah, I think that's why Kavanaugh, the right's never. They could prove without a doubt that he'd raped 5,000 women, and they wouldn't give a shit. They're just like, well, that's better than having a Democrat in it. Or that's the way they think.
I'm glad you talked about the tribal nature of politics, because it is like team sports, and people just they just like associate. No, they just associate. It's like a part of their lives, Like look, the Yankees. You see me with a Yankees hat on all the time, right? The Yankees, look, I can say I bleed pinstripes. I've liked the Yankees since I was a kid, right? There's no other team that I really like. It's the Yankees. I was born in New York. It's like that's me, right? There's one thing about the Yankees that I cannot stand, and that's the whole facial hair rule. If anybody knows baseball, the Yankee players cannot have facial hair. They can't have long hair, and they can't have facial hair. It's the most ridiculous rule in the world. It is nonsense. I am fully against it. I mean, there's no way if I was a baseball player, I would want to play for the Yankees because of that rule. So I feel like the whole team sports vibe and politics is very similar because they treat it in the same manner. But in the way that I can criticize my own team for some kind of just bizarre, outdated kind of policy, why can't people criticize their own party? Like when it's actually necessary, right. When there's actually something there to criticize, when you're actually speaking to for people, when you're trying to be a humanitarian, when you're just engaged in a discourse that supports women that were assaulted, or supports women that they're trying to get their stories out there because they want to be heard, because a wrong was committed against them and their voices want to be heard. Why not just listen? We can debate on whether their accusations are valid or not. Like we can get to is there enough factual evidence to arrive at it's more than likely that this happened or not, because I'm not going to say every single situation yes the woman is telling the truth. By far and large they are, but still there are some that make these things up. Let every case let all the details analyze all the details, let the merits of the case kind of speak to, if the woman is telling the truth or not. Let's just converse about that, and that's it. It's very simple to do, but for some reason, in this particular situation, the Republicans are like, no, we don't want to have that conversation. No, we don't want to have a conversation. For 36 years, Brett Kavanaugh has had upstanding character. So it doesn't matter what he did in 1982. It doesn't matter what he did in 1983.
Because it's win at all costs principles be damned. That's basically what
Yeah, exactly. It's at all costs. Yeah, it's more than a team.
Like a
It's
cult.
very
like a cult.
Yeah, like a cult. It almost is like a cult. It does go really bad. I'm like, you're a bigot, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, this is a little ridiculous. You got to admit, you never experienced that, huh? I don't know. Some people are kind of crazy to the left too. When they get real far to the left, and it's like everything is just, you have to watch what you say, or you're like the whole political correctness thing. I don't know. I feel like the problem is with the right is have the monopoly on incorrect facts. They just make shit up. Like it's not even real. I think that's a lot worse than what the far left does. Like they're not even living in reality.
Far too often they don't deal with the truth. Far too often, and they try to sell these ideas as if they are rooted in fact, but
Well, I think just education and I guess historical evolving from historical pinpoints or historical eras, it's naturally progressive. Like the world moves in a naturally progressive way. Like I said, education is naturally progressive. So in a sense, there's a side that by necessity has to create imaginary worlds. They have to make things up. That's the only way that they could survive in this world, because if they did not make things up, then their world would come crashing down on them, because this world is coming crashing down on them.
So like when Donald Trump says, don't believe what you see, don't believe what you hear, he has to say things like that for his base to keep supporting him. If he deals with reality, of course,
yes, right.
That wouldn't be able to happen.
You're correct.
Right.
It's not so much
that
about
whole
it's
fake
not,
news
it's,
thing, right.
it's bigger than just supporting Trump. I think that's looking at it in a very like a very narrow way, looking at it in a vacuum. It's more about maintaining a certain reality, maintaining a certain fantasy. Like, you know what I'm saying? And the belief in things that are false are a reflection of that, because they do have to create another reality inside this one to cope with a changing world. Or they have to like create an Armageddon because this world is changing. So even they recognize the world is changing. So along with, I guess, believing in a false reality, they have to kind of demonize anyone that does advocate for a changing world or equate a changing world with Armageddon. You know what I'm saying?
One lie that is bigger than just Donald Trump, that I have to be honest, I'm impressed that they're able to still convince people of, is that tax cuts for the rich is actually going to help the middle class. They've been selling that lie for decades, but for some reason, it's still, they still believe it.
Who's that guy? Who's that YouTuber? Steve Shiffin? What's his name? You know what I'm talking about? He went to Wall Street and he was like, "I'm the 1%." And he like went in the middle of all the Wall Street. I guess you wouldn't call it a protest. What was it? An occupation? And he like set up cameras and was like interviewing them, debating with people. But they all love him. He's like one of their idols. He's super rich and he's got like all these ideas, but I don't know how people can listen to people like that when they sit down and they just talk for hours about how they know exactly how everything will play out. I don't care how good of an economist you are. That shit is complicated, man. And he's like, oh yeah, and it will go down a dark path, and we'll have. It's like when you're out of shape and you go to work out, and it's like we'll go through tons of pain and suffering. I'm just thinking, people listen to this dude. He's going to lead us straight into hell, and there's no adjusting course with people like this. Like he's just like, no matter how bad it gets, we just keep on and give the rich more money. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, you would think that we want people that understand there's a million variables in the world. Things are complicated, and you would want to adjust course. And if things aren't working out, you say, hey, we're wrong. But these people are just like so dead set, and they know exactly the way to solve everything. It's crazy to me that anyone with any expert in any field would think like that. I don't understand it. I really don't.
Yeah, I feel
but
you,
that's the way they think.
Yeah, it's a it's a mess, man. I don't know, man. I think you, like I said, I think you described it pretty well, and by saying that it's tribal, and it doesn't matter.
Very tribal,
yeah. They just continuously pledge their allegiances to a political party, and it kind of it feels like it takes the place of their moral compass. Really, it's sad, man. It's sad. But Josh, we're gonna continue on, and we're gonna answer some other calls. We appreciate you calling in, man.
Yeah, have a good night. See you.
You too, man.
Later.
All right, we're gonna go to 704 area code. 704, you're on the air live with LTMB.
What's up, man?
How y'all doing? Will? How you doing?
I'm doing good. This is Will from North Carolina. I had something, man. I wish I was a little more prepared, but I was reading something earlier, and it was from an author that am I good to go? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
I'm all back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, we just have to turn off our mics. That's
Yeah.
why, because we lost our earpieces.
Okay. Yeah, I was reading something from an author that I had tried to mess with before, but I kind of got turned off and everything. But just to tell you a little bit about the author, I don't know what this really means, but he did have a genius level IQ, and was at Harvard, attended Harvard at the age of 16, was actually a mathematician. But one thing I was reading, and I don't completely agree with what he thinks about sort of one thing in particular that I definitely agree about, this solution basically. But what I did definitely agree with was the way he was the way he identified a lot of the issues in modern society. I'm gonna read a little something real quick. I'm sorry. Okay. So I'm cutting in here, but the way to discourage ethnic conflict is not through militant advocacy of minority rights. Instead, the revolutionaries should emphasize that although minorities do suffer more or less disadvantage, this disadvantage is of peripheral significance. Our real enemy is the industrial system and the struggle against the system. And ethnic distinctions are I'm going to paraphrase here, but are of more a symptom than a root cause. It's kind of something I've been trying to say, and I wish I had more time. I wish I was a little more prepared because it's a little more I could go into a little more detail with his writing here. But am I good?
Yeah, you good, man.
All right. Okay. What I was wanting to sort of point out is that anytime you have a hierarchical system with inequality, and this problem's going to be worse with the greater gap in inequality. You're always going to have, if there are multiple ethnicities, you're always going to have ethnic conflict. You're going to have conflict based on race, religion, or ethnicity, religion. I believe we're all the same race, but and sexual preference and many other things, and I believe that also. And one thing that just kind of popped in my mind here is I can't believe that we even accept that the government would be telling that there would be like a party in the government, an entire party that would try to impose not allowing women to get abortions. I mean, I don't understand what a socioeconomic system should have to do with that decision at all. But that's kind of really different from what I was talking about. I don't know why I felt like I want to say that. But is there anything you want to say on that, or I can elaborate a little bit more on what I was saying in the beginning?
All right, well, Will, hold on a second, because we're going to have to cut you off there. We only got like 5 more minutes, and we got one more caller. So we definitely want to get them in, and we can address. We're going to let them fly, and tell us what they want to tell us, and then we'll address, both of you at the end of the show. But we definitely want to get the last caller in too.
Okay. All right, man. Y'all have a good night. Appreciate it.
All right. We appreciate you calling in, Will.
All right. Have a good night.
All right. So. Hold on. All right. Yeah, so we got the 508 area code on the line now. You're on the air live with LTNB.
Hey, what's going on? You guys can hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Who's this?
This is the L Train.
L Train.
What's up, L Train?
What's happening, man?
What up? What up? This is my first time calling, so what's going on?
Chilling, man. How about you? What you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just listening to you guys, and I like the conversations going on. I just wanted to talk about the whole like Nike and Kaepernick thing real quick. I think it's great, what Nike's doing, but at the same time, I think we need to pump the brakes, especially those on the left of, kind of, acting like, Nike is like this big thing that's like all for like inequality now. It's, for me personally, I think it's just a business move. And I kind of equate it to, Adidas and Adi Dassler, back in the day, during, Nazi Germany, how, Jesse Owens was like one of his athletes, but he purely did it for marketing purposes. I don't think he really cared, that, Jesse Owens was black or anything like that. But at the same time, he kind of like, weighed the good and the bad. He knew that he was going to get some backlash over it, but you know what? Like, this is like the greatest athlete of the time wearing your sneakers. So I kind of equate it to that, where there's people now who are wearing Nikes like they're dashikis, thinking, Nike's like this big cultural thing. So I wanted to ask, like, do you think, a lack of culture, like I'm black, so do you think a lack of culture for some black people kind of make us magnify, things greater than what they are? And I kind of equate it to the Black Panther movie that came out earlier this year where, it did great numbers and, I'm proud of that. But at the same time, there were people who literally thought Wakanda was a real place. And, I was lucky to grow up with an actual culture. My family's from the Caribbean, but there's some people who don't know their history beyond slavery and not realizing that we were kings and queens back in the day.
I agree with everything. I agree with everything you said, man. I think it's not just about not really having a good grasp on your culture historically, but that in combination with being politically and economically disenfranchised probably plays a large part of it too. So when you're like going through a long period of economic starvation and representation starvation, you are going to try to find things, I guess, through which you can represent yourself and represent you. Yeah. And if you're talking about things like footwear, clothing, that's going to definitely show, or I guess play a big part in how black people express themselves, because that's all they really have.
Yeah.
And so kind of along with being in a consumer culture, black people are probably going to be in that consumer culture even more, because they're going to look to that consumer culture and what they can buy within this marketplace as a way of establishing what kind of value they have in society, a society that pretty much put a lower value on them. So I think there's all kinds of factors involved, I guess, in this situation, what you just brought up. You got anything to add to that, Will?
Yeah, I mean, very similar to what you said. Look, black people already were buying Nikes. And if you're just talking about a surface issue, if a company is going to put themselves in a situation where they're promoting an individual that is revered among black people, then, like I said, just on the surface, not diving in deep to why they made this decision, if it's just a financial move or not. If they're promoting an individual like Colin Kaepernick, who we believe is going to be on the right side of history, I believe he's already on the right side of history, but in the terms of the masses, years later, he's going to be on the right side of history. He's going to be looked at as an individual that was promoting change, positive change. So in the black community, yeah, they can sign on to that. And just like I said, just on the surface, they want to represent that type of attitude and that type of culture. So I don't believe, like I think we said earlier on the show, I don't believe that Nike is making this move based on ideology. I think it's purely business. I think it's purely financial. But again, it is the right move. So people are going to feel like, hey, I'm going to wear some Nike. I'm going to feel proud about it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I agree with both of you. Both of you guys on that. You kind of look at it with a side eye though, because you're like, Kaepernick's been signed with you guys for a while now. How come you weren't standing with him when he was actually kneeling on the sidelines? Why wait all this long? And it's kind of like that thing that you kind of question, because you know that there's like a underlying reason for it, but you're not sure what it is. That's just my thing.
Yeah, I agree, man. I totally agree with you. Like I said, I'm not gonna ascribe wokeness to them or anything like that. We if you dive deeper, I think they're just making a calculated financial decision, and you got to be careful who you like unconditionally support based on a financial decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because they can do something ridiculous tomorrow.
Yeah, they could.
Yep.
All right, you know what? We just ran out of time. But thank you very much, L Train, for calling in. First time caller, man. We always see you in the chat section, man. Definitely good to hear from you, man. And thank you to all our other callers too, Tony, Josh, and Will. Yeah, thank you very much. Will, we can give. We can try to. Well, actually, I think you need to provide us a little bit more. Maybe if you can. Try to kind of clarify, I guess, what you were trying to convey in the chat section, because
I heard a lot of different things.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to go with what you were trying to say.
Lisa was looking forward to us deciphering it, but I was looking forward to maybe not deciphering it, because it was just so much. You know what I'm saying? Because that's hard to sometimes decipher what you have to say, because you have so much to say. You try to piece everything together, So I gotta pick out one thing. I do remember you saying something about, I guess, hierarchies. He was talking about hierarchies.
He's talking about abortion too.
He's talking about abortion too, but he did talk about like hierarchies and how they're created and which came first. It's that same which came first, the chicken or the egg. Was it class hierarchies and then like racial hierarchies as an expression of that?
Right.
And I just don't think you can separate the two. Even if you're talking about class particularly, I do think it's funny that people kind of ignore the terminology when using the term class before race, even though the word class is short for classification, and racial.
It's about the same thing.
Race is a classification. Yeah. So if you say race or if you say class before race, you're actually it's an oxymoronic statement, because racial hierarchies or race is a class, even though it's a created class, it's a social construct, yes, but is a class, right? People they put people into classes, so that is a class.
Most
so
times
race
when you're talking about,
is a class.
Most times when somebody's talking about class, I think they're trying to make they're trying to make the. I guess they're trying to focus towards money, wealth, assets, stuff like that. They're trying to draw that distinction, but are we going to say that like that's been the same for all racial groups? I mean, white people that have had this amount of success or wealth, assets, has it been the same for black people just because they have the same amount of stuff?
Yeah, see, if you're going to say that the problem is if you're going to say that it's just one or the other and not both, then things like, let's say, the Tulsa massacre wouldn't have happened. People like to inappropriately call it a riot, but that wasn't a riot. If it was just about class, then the Tulsa massacre wouldn't have happened. That was a very wealthy class of black people.
Yep.
So maybe you might want to go read about what that little town of
some
Tulsa
reason, white people weren't too happy
about that. So where is your class analysis in regard to that? That was a very prosperous town. It was very interesting to read about that situation. Matter of fact, I think Charles Blow, he's a CNN contributor. He also writes opinion pieces for the New York Times. He actually interviewed a survivor of that. And I read that piece and I was just like, oh, I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it.
There's not a lot of talk about that, man. Not a lot of conversation about that. A lot of people don't even know that it happened or what it was. But yeah.
Yeah, basically
Black Wall Street.
Yeah, Black Wall Street, man. I'm surprised Will don't know about Black Wall Street.
All you gotta do is research Black Wall Street, man. You'll definitely get an education, man. It's a tragic tale.
Basically, like white people use some sort of, like, I guess a situation involving a child and she wasn't old, but a young boy supposedly touched a woman in an elevator or something, or in a building, and they basically use that as an excuse
to bomb the whole city.
Yeah, bomb the whole city or something. I can't remember. It was a situation like that. It was basically this almost an Emmett Till type situation, but instead of focusing their vitriol on one person, they basically like destroy the entire town. They firebombed the town too. So they basically used crop dusters.
Yeah, they were playing. Yeah,
they went up in people's houses and destroyed things, threw them out, like threw stuff out in the lawn.
They destroyed the place, man. They destroyed the place. Like you said, it was a prosperous town. Black people.
So again, that's like, why did their class like not matter then? Though they were essentially what you would consider a little bit like upper class, upper middle class black people.
That's why you can't separate race from it at all, because it's not just about, hey, yeah, like this is my stature, this is my wealth, this is what I've attained through the course of my life, and it has nothing to do with my skin color. No, not in this country. No. All right. I think that's all we got for y'all. Again, another shout out to all our callers, Tony, Josh, Will, and L Train for finally breaking that seal, man, and calling in, man. We appreciate y'all. Appreciate everybody in the chat section as well. And yeah, we do have a contribution to our show as well. That's Jeremiah. That's a very familiar name. Has contributed to the show many times. Thank you very much. What was the note he included? What, thanks for the news? What did it say? Hold on, yeah, thanks again for the news. Thank you for watching, Jeremiah. Thank you for listening. We appreciate that. Shout out to all of our patrons on patreon.com as well. We appreciate y'all contributing to us financially every single month. We appreciate that. We noticed that the last video that we uploaded to YouTube was, of course, the Jimmy Dore video, and there's been many comments on that video. There's been a lot of pushback on that video, and I'm not saying I'm surprised. I knew that was gonna happen, but I think our point on that video was pretty much that the the criticism of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was not warranted, because basically what she said on CNN with Jake Tapper is the Democratic candidate for governor in New York is better than the Republican. That's, like, in a nutshell, that's what she said. Jimmy Dore took some liberties in trying to paint what she said and saying that she said that Cuomo was the answer, saying that her, she's been co-opted, and which, those were not true. They were lies. You can say they weren't lies. You can say it was Jimmy just, going too far, using some bit of hyperbole, something like. Whatever. It wasn't true. It wasn't true.
It wasn't like some sort of hard hitting hit piece.
Not really. No.
On Jimmy Dore, it was just like kind of talking about how he took something too far.
Yeah.
That's all.
We
Like,
thought
again,
it was too far.
It's not about him just disagreeing with it. It's about him disagreeing with it and, I guess, creating the outrage based on what he extrapolated.
Yeah.
The only way he could be outraged is for him to extrapolate something hyperbolic from it.
Yeah.
That's the problem we had. So when you say Ocasio-Cortez is telling us Cuomo is the answer, that's being hyperbolic for the purpose of having your outrage, and then I guess causing your viewers to have that same outrage. That's all we were saying. I was like, him drawing from that and saying that statement, that was a bit disingenuous.
See, and we wouldn't have made the video, right, if we didn't recognize who Jimmy Dore was. If we didn't recognize that Jimmy Dore had a large following, if we didn't recognize that there are many people that consider themselves to be progressive that listen to Jimmy Dore, get the news from Jimmy Dore, and actually listen to what Jimmy Dore says, and that kind of shapes their opinions. So if Jimmy Dore is there criticizing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in a disingenuous way, and then there are people that are saying, oh, no, forget Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we can't trust her, forget her, that's a step too far. Like, that's somebody that we need in Congress. There's nothing to suggest that she's a fake. Not to us. There's nothing to suggest that she's a fake, she's a fraud, or that she's been co-opted, or that she's going to do the bidding for the establishment. There's just nothing to suggest that. If and when she does that, we will be one of the first to absolutely call her out. We don't have any unconditional support for anybody, but we gotta give her some room to work first. Like, we gotta give her some space to actually get in there and make some decisions.
She ain't even won yet.
So I just don't think there's a lot of, I don't think there should be a lot of controversy with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Democrat, saying that she's going to support the Democratic Party, and that in her home state of New York, she's supporting the Democrat over the Republican. That's just not a very controversial statement.
But again, if it has to do with the Democratic Party, you have to make certain things that are said seem more extreme than what they are when it comes to the Democratic Party, even though it's not necessary. Even though there's plenty of things to go down the list to criticize them about.
And we have routinely. Like, I mean, if there's something to hit them for.
You don't have to magnify something.
No, you don't. You don't.
And
have
I think what happens is, like, when you have gone to that well too many times, it creates a tendency. So anytime the word Democrat is mentioned, it triggers something inside of him, and people like him who choose to kind of offer their analysis on situations like this, it triggers something inside of him simply because the word some passion and
visceral reaction.
So it's understandable, but it doesn't mean there's always something there to grasp a hold of. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, I think that's kind of the direction he was going. He goes to that well all the time. He continuously goes there, so he creates this habit.
Yeah, Lil Train saying there's 174 comments on that video. Yeah, we were trying to, respond to a lot of them because, like I said, we knew there was going to be some pushback. Will said she did not have to show support for Cuomo, especially in light of his recent statements. And see, that's where we disagree, because She was asked a question. She was asked a question about Cuomo, all right? And now she began by saying, hey, yeah, you know, pretty much, hey,
I can go toe to toe.
Yeah, I can get into a fight, but hey, this is what we got to do. And I'm going to be supporting Democrats, including Cuomo for governor of New York. So think about if she had not made that endorsement. I don't even call it an endorsement, but think about if she had not done that. Do you think that the line of questioning would have ended there, or do you think Jake Tapper would have made a retort? Do you think he would have
been he would have retorted, but I do think it's important that you included I guess her segue.
Yeah,
I think it's important that you included how she qualified her answer by saying, hey, I can get into a back and forth, but blah 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 blah.
Why would she need to do that if she's like with Cuomo, you know?
Exactly, that's the point. I think that's the problem with how Jimmy chooses to cover things. He played like 5 seconds of something he said and then went off on it, as if the entire interview and everything else she said didn't matter and had no context, and didn't add context and add a broad understanding to her entire commentary surrounding Cuomo and her entire answer. And I think how she started off that segment, the segment that was specifically about Cuomo, is important, because obviously she was kind of telling us that, yeah, you know what? I could go toe-to-toe.
Yes.
I can go toe-to-toe with anybody, but I won't do that now. Yeah. Why would she have to say that if she had all positive things to say about Cuomo?
Or if she was co-opted
was co-opted. Why would she say that? Why would she feel the need to say that? She felt the need to say that because, like, look, like, y'all ain't gonna get me. Yeah. Y'all was like, y'all ain't gonna get me before I get elected. Y'all ain't gonna get me to like, shoot myself in the foot.
Exactly.
You ain't gonna get me to trip up on these landmines before I get elected.
And see, Cuomo, Will said Cuomo is not representative of the Democratic Party values. Will also said he's a Republican in dim clothing. Hey, look, we said on that segment that we don't support Cuomo. We don't believe him to be a progressive. But again, we have to deal with reality here just for a second, okay? Have to deal with the reality. Got to put on the big boy pants, and we got to deal with reality here. New York has a chance to have a Republican Congress, okay? In the state of New York, all right? The state legislature. If they're able, or if they're trying to enact progressive change in the state of New York, is it going to be Cuomo that is more likely to sign off on that legislation, or would it be the Republican Molinari? Not going to be the Republican. Like, we can I guess admit what Cuomo is. We can admit that he's centrist. We can admit he's a corporatist. No doubt. You don't have any argument from us whatsoever. But when we're talking about passing legislation, who's gonna pass that legislation? It's not gonna be the Republican. So all we're saying is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she understands this.
This is not, like, I don't know why the conversation keeps going back to what type of person Cuomo is.
Yeah, we already know
you
that.
Telling us that, like, we don't already know that. Yeah, and again,
she knows that.
Yeah, she knows that too. Like, again, and like, I think we discussed this on the show. Because Mr. Dead in My Pocket says AOC was asked to comment about Cuomo's antagonistic statements. Instead of responding neutrally, she endorsed Cuomo. Weak sauce. Okay, here's like kind of how I see it. It's kind of easy for us. Like, I see where you're coming from, but you can't come from your position as an armchair progressive, sitting in the comfort of your progressive spaces, our righteous progressive spaces. We can't come at it like that. So if you're coming at it if you're coming at it from that angle, you're completely correct. But unfortunately, Ocasio-Cortez cannot come at it from that angle. So you're projecting onto her what you would do in her situation, and not necessarily what she has to do being in the situation she actually is in. We're not in her situation. So, like, how we strategize is essentially based on where we are. But so you're right if you're just talking about yourself, but we're talking about someone else. We're talking about Ocasio-Cortez, who hasn't even won yet, who has to end up working with these people later, and who doesn't want to get tripped up before voting day comes around. So, like, I think it's a bit like armchairy to talk about it was weak sauce. And again, you used the word she could have been neutral. There is no neutral.
Yeah,
See, you're being unrealistic based on how you already know politics works in this country. You know good and well she couldn't have been neutral. So I know you're smarter than that. She could not have been neutral. That would have been seen and viewed as a rebuke, as a rejection.
And that would have became the story.
That would have became the story.
Yes. And I can't forget to mention that the type of candidate that you are talking about, the neutral one, which of course, again, that would have been an internal fight in the Democratic Party, and it would have only served to injure Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It would not have hurt somebody like the incumbent Governor Andrew Cuomo. So the type of candidate that you're talking about is somebody that routinely loses elections. The type of candidate that is a bull in a china shop. Somebody that just wants to knock shit over just because they want to, I guess, they don't want to play the game. And I think there's something to be said about that. I believe that's I guess, conducting yourself with integrity, but it doesn't mean that it's a smart decision, because if you actually want to have a seat in Congress, there's a little bit of game playing that you need to do. If you don't do that game playing at all, you're not going to have a seat in Congress. It's just not going to happen. So again, the kind of politician that people are talking about are the kind of politicians that never win their elections. That can't be valued more than somebody like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who refuses to be tripped up.
I think I think, like, I've heard this before, and I'm just focusing on Will because he said it. He's not the only one to say this. So there's a lot of people who are in that boat with Will. So I just want to let people know that, so it doesn't look like Will is the only one who's saying this. But I've heard this before, and he says he doesn't think it's armchair to hold those elected accountable, when that's not actually what is happening in this case. Because what exactly are you holding her accountable to, other than your feelings and other than, like, I guess, than just your sheer, like, disgruntlement about how she went about something? What is there to hold her account for? Did she go back on a policy? Did she go back on her word anyway? So what exactly are you holding her accountable for? You're just using the word accountable in place of, I just didn't like what she did.
He also said she won, but now she can't stay if she doesn't betray her voters. See, we haven't gotten to that point yet. See, you're trying to project that one comment that she made, and that means that when she gets to office, she's going to betray her whole platform. She's going to betray the people that actually got her to that position. And there's nothing to suggest that she's actually going to do that. All she did was recognize that, let me see, hold on. What party did I run in? I ran in the Democratic Party. Okay, so I probably have to support Democrats in, like, general, right? Okay, so I'm gonna support Democrats. And the state that I come from, Cuomo just beat my candidate, who I endorsed, Cynthia Nixon. I did endorse Cynthia. She endorsed Cynthia Nixon. She got the brakes beat off of her. Now, it was a good showing. I think it was a good showing, and I think they did a good job in actually pushing Andrew Cuomo to the left. But still, she got the brakes beat off of her, right? So the people in New York just made their decision. They voted and they chose Cuomo. So she's going to...
so you're saying it's not just about Cuomo.
No.
Just looking at it
No.
from
it's about the people of New York too.
So it's not just about, like, being co-opted or capitulating to the establishment. She has a bigger concern in mind. She has a more broad understanding of what that election meant, and it's not just about Cuomo. And that statement was not just about Cuomo. I'm telling you, she is smarter than us. She is smarter than you.
Do you think that it's possible? Let's just deal with
I'm
possibility.
sorry, she is smarter than you.
Do you think it's possible that she has higher aspirations?
Oh, it's quite possible that she has higher aspirations.
So if she was to actually say that no, she doesn't support Andrew Cuomo for governor, don't you think that would stay with her? In New York, don't you think that would stay with her? Let's say it actually affected Cuomo and he didn't get elected. Don't you think that would stay with her? Again, like, as much as people want to say about the progressive movement, there are way more centrist voters out there. There are way more establishment voters out there. So as a politician, you definitely at least have to keep an eye on them. You definitely at least have to acknowledge that they're there, and you do have to get their support. Progressives can't win campaigns all on the backs of progressive voters. It's always because of centrist voters that help them actually achieve their wins. So if that's true, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez maybe does have higher aspirations, I don't think she would want to piss them off, and unnecessarily piss them off too. Unnecessarily piss them off.
She chose the best answer for the question she was asked. I keep hearing people.
Yeah, she didn't bring it like a sign.
Yeah, she didn't bring it like a sign.
Whoa.
They keep saying, well, he didn't have to endorse her. She didn't have to endorse. She didn't have to endorse him. She didn't have to endorse him. Again, if you want to call it endorsement, fine. But to not take into account that the question was specifically about him. You have to understand that. Yeah. If you are like not acknowledging that when you're coming to your conclusion or your opinion about this, you're being a bit dishonest and disingenuous, because the question was about him specifically. She didn't bring him up. Jake Tapper did. Was that Jake Tapper?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jake Tapper did.
Yeah.
So again, based on the question she was asked in a line of questioning, she gave the best answer for that scenario. But again, who are we to talk for somebody that won their primary?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
that put in the legwork.
Put in the legwork. But
months of work.
Who am I to say? Like, who are we to say? Who am I to say? Like, man, you should do this and you should do that. How'd you approach that like this? As if she didn't win anything. Like I said, that is armchair-y. That's like the epitome of armchair. Like, she didn't win anything. Again, but she still has to win. She hasn't won the big one yet.
L Train said, I love this too, L Train. He said, AOC rebuking Cuomo at this point would be the equivalent of a student packing it in after acing one exam when there's still 3 more months left in the semester. She's making smart moves.
Smart, yes, exactly. Smart moves.
She's doing what she has to do, okay? If it was her betraying her platform, if it was her betraying the people that rode hard for her, we would have a different take on this. But she didn't change not one thing about her platform. She didn't say, you know what, Medicare for all, I can't do that now because I support Cuomo. Sorry, I'm going to have to retract that. I'm sorry. I can't do that, people. I know you elected me to do something. I can't. She didn't do anything. She didn't betray any position that she has held since she has been running for office. So it's a little bit premature for us to say she's this now or she's that. She can't be trusted. She's going to betray the people. It's way too early for that.
And I think, like, to me, like, I guess what's the elephant in the room for me is that some of these same people that kind of went off the rails with this supported Bernie Sanders, and they still support Bernie Sanders. Now, what did Bernie Sanders do after the primary? After he lost the primary, what did he do?
Do you remember in Philadelphia?
In Philadelphia.
Do you remember at the Democratic National Convention?
At the convention.
You remember when he supported Hillary? Actually, you know what? Shoot, before that, you remember he appeared on the stage before that?
He appeared on stage before that.
That's right. He appeared on stage before that and said, hey, we need to rally behind Hillary.
Rally behind Hillary. So he actually did the most. He actually did much more.
Way more.
He also instructed his people who voted for him that he figured wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton to fall in line and vote for Hillary Clinton.
Did it compromise any of his positions?
No. It wasn't the same. I don't know how it's not the same, but I've heard people say, well, that was different. That was different. And I really haven't heard a legitimate argument to say why that was different. Oh, I heard all kind of stupid shit. He did it. Well, he waited. He waited to do it before he endorsed. I was like, wait a second. Actually, he pre-endorsed Hillary Clinton.
He pre-endorsed her.
Because he said if he lost, he would support the Democratic nominee, which would be Hillary Clinton.
He said that
so he said it actually before he lost.
Yep.
So you can't give me that. I've heard that time argument and saying it wasn't the same. Not only, it's actually worse because, like I said, he pre-endorsed her, but it's worse because he did all that extra stuff.
It's worse because, like, going through 2016 in the primaries, we knew that Bernie Sanders said that at the beginning, that he was going to support the Democratic nominee. He said that the whole time. Now, going through the primaries and then learning more stuff about what was happening, the shenanigans, all of that stuff.
One of the most corrupt politicians in history,
Exactly.
He called Hillary Clinton.
Exactly. And then so before we arrived at his endorsement, we were like, man, how is he about
to do this?
How's he about to do this knowing like what we know now and all this stuff that's coming? Like, how could you actually do it? But he did it. He did it.
So what we're saying is Ocasio-Cortez did not well, I guess it's different only because she wasn't running against him.
Yeah. That's true. That's very
That's
true,
the only
man.
reason why it's not different. But still, though, if you're just looking at the sheer endorsement and that's what people have a problem with, then you should also have held it against Bernie Sanders for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
For endorsing Hillary Clinton, because that's what that was.
Exactly. See, look.
So I don't see how you can still support Bernie Sanders and then all of a sudden throw Ocasio-Cortez in the trash when what he did was 10 times worse. If you're looking at the scale of endorsements.
Right. Like during the primaries, like you could still feel some type of way about people that backed Hillary Clinton for office. You could still feel some type of way about that because I do too. I'm like, man, look, Bernie was right there. He was trying to do something pretty profound. Like he was trying to really change the game up. Look, like why didn't you back him? Like you definitely missed the boat, man. Like look what kind of position you put us in. Like of course there's a lot of people that feel like that. But do I hold any like ill will for Bernie Sanders in the general election supporting Hillary Clinton or anybody else in the general? Once we got to that point, do I hold any ill will towards people that voted for Hillary Clinton or supported Hillary Clinton? Not even a little bit. Not even one iota. Because I don't think at the time we understood like the full magnitude of what Trump could be. I don't think at the time I don't think at the time we could project exactly what he was going to do, how bad he was going to be. But we see how bad he is now. Now, there were other people that they saw it coming. Like, hey, Trump is too dangerous. Can't risk it. Hey, we got to get behind Hillary Clinton. Again, we had a different motive. We had a different goal. We wanted to push the Green Party to a certain point. I think that was an admirable goal. I think it could have been achievable, but hey, it didn't work. It didn't even get anywhere close to working. So there's no way I can feel like anybody that supported Hillary Clinton at that point is like beneath me or deserves some kind of condemnation or something like that.
See, Mr. Dead in my pocket. Mr. Dead in my pocket. You what you are doing is you are reducing our argument to one that says that Sanders didn't get any backlash. Did you hear us say that? No. So why are you making that argument? He says Sanders' support of Hillary was a huge point of contention. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. We
talked about it.
Sanders was criticized up and down. We did too.
Yep.
So that's not our argument. Did we ever say that Bernie Sanders was not criticized for it? We didn't say that. My question was directed specifically towards people who still supported Bernie Sanders while at the same time throwing Ocasio-Cortez under the bus or in the trash can completely.
Exactly.
So again, my question was very specific to a very specific group of people. And again, even the people that criticized Bernie Sanders, they still supported him afterwards. And there are those people that exist. And some of those people who I personally know, who have personally come across, had thrown Ocasio-Cortez in the trash can. So my question was directed at those specific people who exist in abundance. So that's very specific. If you can't give me answers to that specific question, you know what I'm saying? That's what we're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. We know that occurred. He got shit for it. Mm-hmm. That's not the issue. That's not our point of contention.
We noted at the time that it was a bad look, no doubt.
Yeah.
But even at the time, even at the moment that he did it, I don't think we came out and said, "Oh, disgusting." Bernie said, "Oh, we can't stand." No, we never offered that type of rebuke towards Bernie Sanders. When he started making other type of statements, like when he talked about voting third party was like a protest vote. I remember I had something critical to say about that because that was whack. But just him signing on to support Hillary Clinton in the general, no, I mean, look, many people did that. If you want to talk about the primary, again, that's different because you could have made the right decision and supported Bernie Sanders. In my opinion, you didn't. But that's history. When we're talking about AOC and we're talking about Cuomo, We're talking about the general election. Cynthia Nixon is history now in terms of this election. She's gone. She's not winning. Sorry, it's over, okay? I supported her. Lots of people supported her. She didn't get the job done. At this point, we're moving on to the general in November. Who are you going to support? As a Democrat, who are you going to support? As a progressive Democrat with a progressive platform, who are you going to support? Who are you going to support? There's only one option here.
See now, Mr. Dad, you're just purposefully like trying to like create another reality to make your point stick. Now you're acting like those people don't exist. You're saying I don't have a point, but what you're saying is that my experience with talking to people and interacting with people about this issue doesn't exist. So my point is based on my experience. So you can't say I don't have a point unless you understand my experience. If my experience is not like, it can't be broadened across the board, fine. But to say that those people don't actually exist, that there's no people that still support Bernie Sanders after he endorsed Hillary Clinton, but at the same time have instantly thrown Ocasio-Cortez in the trash can, you're saying that those people don't exist. The only reason why you have to say those people don't exist or that's not happening is because you don't have an answer for the question, or there's not an easy out for those people. Maybe you are one of those people. Maybe that's the reason. But to say that that didn't happen, come on, you're being a bit disingenuous.
I got a question though, man. If you throw AOC out, who you got left, man? Who you supporting? Like, who's your candidate? Seriously, if AOC isn't good enough for you, who you got? Who is there?
Yeah, so if you turned against, let's say, Ocasio-Cortez or Gillum or Tulsi Gabbard, any of those people, who the heck do you support?
Who you got? Again, your candidates are going to be people that don't even have a chance of winning. They don't even have a shot in hell. Again, they feel like, hey, the game is rigged. I'm going to call it out. I'm going to be loud. And look, again, more power to you. I wish that worked, but it doesn't. You know that going in, right? That it's not going to work, right? You know that going in because of our political situation here in the United States of America. It's not going to win, right? You know that, right? You know that, right? Okay, go ahead.
It just seems like people just want to feel better about someone being a true progressive and not actually winning elections and doing the things that it takes to win elections. You're going to everyone is going to constantly fall short in your eyes if you go at it like that.
That's a fantasy right there. Like, that's a dream situation. That's something that, like, I covet. I mean, I wish we had a situation like that where, again, it was only about the ideas. It was about the character of the individual. It was about the integrity. It's about the policy positions. It wasn't about who's more popular. It wasn't about celebrity. It wasn't about name recognition. It wasn't it wasn't anything to do with that. It was just about what the candidate was going to do for the people they represent. That's it. But that is not the current landscape of American politics. Nobody can disagree with that. So at some point, we have to work with the landscape that we are in right now. We can't just say, forget it. You know, we can't just bow out and be like, it's horribly corrupt. We can't do that. If you want change, then you have to be a part of the progress. And part of that progress is not turning your back on progressive candidates that are actually trying to do the right thing, but may rub you a little bit the wrong way because they have to support the Democratic Party in general. Like, the whole goal is to reform the Democratic Party, right? That's the whole goal. People can debate if it can be achieved or not. We can debate that. I don't see it on the horizon, but it's still the goal. That's more the goal than trying to start a new party. That's definitely more achievable than starting a new party. So that has to be the mission. It has to be the mission. So for us to actually reach a point where that mission is actually completed, like we actually arrive at success, it's with supporting people like AOC. There's no other way.
She won a primary, Will. She won a primary. And guess what? She won a primary. So what that tells me is she knows how to win. So thanks for making that point. But she did not win the big one. I think that's important. So we're not like, I think you acknowledging that she won something is making a good point. That means she knows how to win and she knows what she has to do. So maybe we should, leave that up to her and her campaign and stop armchairing. Again, I have no problem with you offering like analysis or maybe a critiquing. Hey, maybe she should have done this. Maybe she should have done that. You know what I'm saying? That's always going to be a part of political discussion. But like, I think you're just taking it way too far. You're just being very unrealistic. That's all I'm saying.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, 14th district in New York, right?
Yeah.
She beat who? Joe Crowley, right?
Joe Crowley.
Joe Crowley was a
10
term.
10 term. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, 10 term.
I believe, yeah, 10 term incumbent, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, the people that voted for Crowley, you would say is like an establishment type of guy. You would say that, right? So establishment voters voted for Crowley. That would mean that establishment voters voted for AOC.
Yes.
She can't win without them.
She can't win without them. She cannot win without them.
Just saying, man.
See, this is what I can't stand people do. Sleepery. You don't know that. If Hillary would have won, we would have been at war with Russia now. See, that's what people do. They have to create some sort of like, I guess, scenario so they have an excuse to have a position now.
It can't be disproven. Yeah.
You have to justify a position now by somehow creating some sort of unknown thing or unknown situation in a different dimension. So, hey, this is why I have this position now, because if Hillary was elected, we would be here. It's something that you can't really say. That's not really logical at all. Come on now.
Look, man, I am so not afraid to state that right now in 2018, I'd rather be dealing with the Hillary Clinton presidency than a Donald Trump presidency. I don't care. Like, I don't care about stating that. That's the truth. Like, I know there would be significant concerns with Hillary Clinton. No doubt. We'd have so much material, just like we have material on Donald Trump to talk about. I know there'd be issues. But would I rather deal with her corruption than Donald Trump's? Or all of his bad? Yes, I'd rather deal with Hillary Clinton's. No doubt. I'm not afraid to say that.
Yeah, see, I don't think so, Bob Jones. You say everyone would be back to sleep. Wait a second. Hillary Clinton received a popular vote. So weren't people asleep when they were voting for Hillary Clinton? See, do you see what I'm saying? Like, so she got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. Yeah, she won the popular vote.
Yeah.
So, like, the people that were asleep would have already been asleep if she won because she got the popular vote. So do you think the people who were kind of on her ass this whole time would just be like, oh, she won?
But hold up.
Who are you talking about? Who would have gone to sleep?
But aren't people asleep right now?
Aren't people asleep right now, though?
As it concerns Donald Trump? People are asleep right now.
So it's just different people
what's
who would
going
be
on.
asleep. So
exactly.
you're just like exchanging one group for being asleep for the next. Like,
yes.
And again, like, who would be asleep exactly? Would you be asleep? No. People who have your political view? Of course not. And if they were, whose fault is that? Mm-hmm. Like, you mean to tell me this entire time we've been talking about Hillary Clinton, we would just stop talking about Hillary Clinton? That doesn't even make sense. Again, the people you are talking about are the people who were already asleep, who already voted for her. So there would be no people going to sleep. It was because their person won.
Yeah. And right now, look.
Oh, the 62 million. So the 62 million people who didn't vote for her would just be like, oh, Hillary won. Go to sleep.
Like, look, we're in the year of technology. Well, not in the year. We're in the age of technology. This is the digital age, right? I saw in 2016 that more people were engaged politically than before. That's what I saw. I think a lot of other people saw that too. So I think there was more of an awakening happening in 2015 and 2016. So of course there's still going to be people asleep like there are right now as it concerns Donald Trump. And if it's President Hillary Clinton, of course they're going to be people asleep too, and just like cheering her on, and people like just giving her unconditional support like we see with Donald Trump. It doesn't matter who the candidate is. We know the actions of human beings. We know like the unconditional support that they give to certain politicians based on political affiliation. We know that happens all the time. It doesn't matter if Hillary Clinton is in office. The sleeping that you're talking about is going to happen no matter who is in office. Everybody's going to have their like base of support.
But there's an assumption that somehow there was like, again, there's an assumption.
More sleep?
Like who, like again, what group is the sleeper group? What group is the group sleeping? That's the question. I think people say that and not consider what group are you talking about.
We got mugs taking naps on both sides, man. That's the reality. All right, man. We like I said, we can go on with this forever, man. We can go on for this forever, but we're gonna shut this down, man. We're gonna shut this down. I know you still looking at the comments, man. So you still thinking about some things to talk about, man.
Nah, not really, man. I'm actually laughing because Ted Cruz was up in here.
I know. I
you
saw
see that?
Ted Cruz in
I
here.
was trying not to laugh.
Did you have a debate, man?
Yo, I know. Did you have a debate to go to? But hey, if I was Ted Cruz, I'd rather to be in a random chat section than being in a debate with Beto O'Rourke making a fool of myself.
Man, I just look at Ted Cruz. I'm like, who can actually take this guy seriously, man? Ted, like, just look at his face. Look at the expressions that he makes with his face. Who could actually take this dude? He's such a fake person, man. I hope he loses, straight up, man. This would be the year. This would be the year. They are running very close, him and Beto O'Rourke. From what we heard from, I believe that was Josh that was saying that, right? Mm-hmm. On the phone, yeah, I think that was Josh. He said Beto O'Rourke was not performing very well. This is the second debate, so hopefully he cleaned things up for that third debate, man, because this is important, man. Yeah, man, that's all we got. Actually, oh yeah, you know what? Let's break a little bit of news too. This week, okay, so this show, Thursday might be our last show for a couple weeks, okay? We have some upgrades to make, okay? And we can't do that while we're doing the show, straight up. We just can't do it. There's so many things that we got to do. We got to update the software. We got to get a new background. We got to get new mics. We got to get new we got to get a damn, I keep forgetting. Audio interface. We got to get audio interface. We got to get some damn headpieces. We got a lot of different stuff to do. So I believe after this week, we're going to shut it down for a couple weeks. Now, during that time, we're going to still be uploading videos, maybe some short clips from time to time. Like if something pops off, might, upload a short video, something like that on YouTube. Because we don't want to just like go ghost for like 2 weeks. Because I know there's going to be a lot of things to discuss. So that's what we have planned. And hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll have everything done. And we'll come back better than before, because like I said, we've been putting this on hold for a long time, and it would be better to do this before the midterm elections. It would definitely be better to do that before the midterm elections. So Thursday is probably, like I said, Thursday is probably going to be the last like official LTNB live show for a couple weeks at least. But like I said, there'll still be content that we'll put out. You'll still have some commentary. Maybe not both of us at the same time. Like I might upload a video just about something. Might do the same thing.
Yeah.
Something like that. But like I said, we'll still keep it going. We don't want to leave you high and dry. So, but like I said, we definitely have to make these upgrades because we got all this moolah just sitting in the account, man.
Cheddar, dog.
We got all this cheddar. You know what I'm saying? We got all this money just
guap.
Like filling
Guap.
over. Like cup filling over and stuff. Like
we got this money folding over.
I'm saying
itself, man. We got that
burning a hole in the pockets.
We got that Scrooge McDuck money, dog.
diving
in,
gold coins and stuff
diving.
Like that. Yeah, nah, it's not gonna be no content. All right, we're definitely gonna be. It's gonna be content. It's just not gonna be the live show. Okay, for probably a couple weeks, and then we'll get back to it. But during that 2 week period, we're gonna be uploading content. Like I said, it's just not gonna be like in this format. It just might be, you might see me in the car, something like that. Just like, yo, you see what just happened, man?
Oh, so you about to do car rants, dog? You about to do car rants?
I might do a car rant or something like that, man. Mike might be hooping or something, Might be you run a lot, right? I run, yeah. He might be running like 5 miles or something like that. Did I overshoot it?
Oh, you overshot. More like 3, dog.
Yeah, but we'll try to do that. Definitely not try. We will do that because, like I said, I don't want to go 2 weeks without any content whatsoever. So yeah, just want to give you that update. But Thursday we will definitely be here again, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, shout out to all our callers, Will, Tony, Josh, and L Train, first time caller. We hope you call back too, man. Straight up. Shout out to all our patrons on patreon.com, all of our viewers, everybody that participated in the chat, everybody that disagrees with us. Straight up. Look, it's all love. It's all love, man. We can have a disagreement. Straight up. I mean, that's what this is about, man. We're trying to arrive at solutions. You know what I'm saying?
And in doing so, there is going to always be a certain level of armchairing involved, because I think that's what political analysis is. But I think like contextually, when I use the word armchair, it's not just about offering your opinion or responding to things. Like armchair, like when somebody says somebody's being an armchair quarterback, what are they doing? They're trying to project what they would do in a situation without considering all the other factors. So that's an important context behind when I use the word armchair, because technically everything is armchair.
True.
Like this whole show is armchair.
True.
I mean, all political analysis is armchair, but there's an added context to what I mean and what we mean by armchair. When you're not taking in all the factors, you're not considering all the factors in regard to that analysis. Like people used to say armchair quarterback, right? Because that's typically the easiest thing to go to. If I'm sitting there saying, hey, that quarterback should have done this. Why didn't that quarterback do this? And why did that quarterback do that? Without looking at any factors on the field that affected his decision, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about.
Right. Now, it's different if in that kind of conversation, like you actually have like a current or former quarterback that knows the position, knows what kind of situation that quarterback was in, and can speak to like what decision could have been made and should have been made. So, I mean, like that wouldn't be really like armchair quarterback. That's somebody that knows the landscape, knows like, hey, you made a mistake there. You should have done this. So that's all we're talking about. We're seeing, as it concerns this Jimmy Dore argument, we're seeing a lot of pushback that not really taking all the factors into account. I guess that's all we're saying right there. At some point, you have to deal with the reality of our political situation, and that is what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is doing. You can't just disregard reality. You can't do it because that's what it is. You got to deal with it. If you want to have a seat in Congress, you got to deal with reality. So I think that's what I see her doing. So that's all we're saying. So, but anyway, we're going to get out of here. Again, appreciate everybody that joined us for this program. I don't hear nothing, do you?
No.
Yeah, no, it's not even. I'm trying to put some music on or something.
Probably because it reset.
Yeah, because it reset. You know what? Let me, I think, yeah, hold on a second. Yeah, try end this. All right, okay. All right. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to be out of here. Probably a little freeze there for a second. But anyway, again, shout out to everybody. We appreciate you. Jeremiah, again, contributed to the program. We appreciate that in the super chat. Everybody have a good night, and we will see you in just 2 days. And then by then, we might have some information about, what happened on Thursday.
Oh, yeah, with the whole testimony and
at
everything.
the Senate Judiciary Committee, man. It might be a shit show. I don't know. I can't even imagine what's going to happen, man. That might be an extreme shit show right there, man.
There literally might be shit thrown around.
I mean, what's going to happen with Deborah Ramirez's claim? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you ain't going to address it. You ain't going to do, this is ridiculous. I mean, this is a damn shame, This is our government right here that's treating the situation this way? Man.
Especially in the face of such a monumental decision.
I'm saying, man. And you're just going to... We'll see. We'll see if this actual hearing does take place, and we'll see if the vote actually does take place on Friday as well. It shouldn't. It definitely should not.
For real, dog. For real. And a lot of these, I guess, supportive voices in regard to Kavanaugh and opposition voices towards any kind of investigation taking place or any look back into its history are coming from people who consider themselves conservative and Christian. Am I right? Right?
Yep.
That's
men and women of God.
Men and women of God.
Franklin Graham, man of God.
So something he did 30 years ago should have nothing to do with what qualifies him today. Basically, something that happened 30 years ago shouldn't impact today. But they believe that Eve bit off the tree of what? Knowledge of good and evil? And that fucked us over for humanity?
Also, I guess they're still punishing women.
They're still punishing. Oh,
maybe that's what it is. Still punishing women. You know, I don't think we've said this on the show, but Catholic preachers. Yeah. Remember all these Catholic preachers, the assaults.
The
molestation and all that. This is years later.
Exactly.
Nobody's saying it's political.
Nobody's saying it's political.
Nobody's saying it's political. All right, man. We'll have much more on Thursday. Everybody have a good night. We'll see you on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let the madness begin. All right. Peace out.
Switch Nick. Switch, bring it back.